You claim a loan to the defendant in the amount of $160 for rent.
That's correct.
He called you, he needed some money for rent. He was a friend of yours, off and on boyfriend, so you loaned him the money. That was in what month?
July.
And he hasn't paid you back?
Sure. I never called her.
The defendant says that, yes, you did in fact give him $160 for rent. That $160 was a gift, and he never agreed to pay you back. You gave it to him because you were a nice person, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And he has a counterclaim. Mr. Joyelle says that you threw his keys in a field.
Cow field.
What?
A cow field.
In a cow field. As a result of which, he couldn't find his car keys, he couldn't get to work, he was docked pay, and ultimately lost his job. So he is counterclaiming for $400. So I'm going to deal with his counterclaim first.
Okay.
When was this incident with the car keys?
Like May 30th or something like that. I got
May 30th of this year.
Yes, ma'am.
Before the rent.
Yeah, well, that's why I didn't have money for the rent, because she tried to claim my keys into a cow field. I didn't lose my job. I don't know where that came from, but I got written up. I have the slip where I got written up, and I couldn't work for a week. I lost 40 hours.
Why couldn't you work?
I got suspended.
Okay. May the 30th. Tell me what happened on that day, Mr. Joyelle.
Well, we were out.
Paper down. It's making me nervous.
We were at this bar, and she had happened to walk in, and I was with this other girl. She gave me kind of like the evil eye, you know what I mean, from across the room. So the next morning, she comes to my house, and she starts yapping about how I got to show her some respect and this and that. But she's not my girlfriend, you know. We just, every now and then, we'll hang around. And my keys are on the patio table. I'm like, I don't want to hear this. I'm taking off. She goes, you ain't going nowhere. And that's when I chucked my keys right into the damn cow field. And I couldn't get into work because I had no keys. And there's bulls in that field.
How far from your house did you work?
I don't know.
10 minutes.
About 10 minutes, half an hour by bus. But the way this bus schedule goes, I had to be in work at 5, and I wouldn't get there until like 5:15, 5:30.
You have to take an earlier bus.
Well, if she wouldn't have threw my keys inside the cow field, I wouldn't have to take a bus, right?
But you'd have to take an earlier bus if you wanted to.
Well, I did. Well, I took the bus.
Good. Oh, good. Now, after May 30th with the cow field and the key, by the way, did you finally find your keys?
Yeah, it took me about 6 days.
Okay, but you finally found them.
Yes, ma'am.
But you had plenty of time because you weren't going to work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Did you see Miss Nieves between May 30th and the date in July when she gave you this money?
Yeah, I seen her.
Did you have dinner with her?
Nah.
Were you ever alone with her?
Yeah, I'm assuming so.
What does that mean?
Well, you know, it's like casual kind of thing. Sometimes we hang out, sometimes we don't. But I'm almost positive we hung out.
I mean alone.
Yeah.
Not at the bar.
Yeah,
Now,
alone.
when you hung out alone with her, where did you hang out?
At the bar and then probably back at her house.
Did you ever hang out with her at your house alone?
Yeah.
Between May 30th and July when she gave you the money?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, tell me about the conversation that you had with Miss Nieves about your need for money for rent. Where were you when you had this discussion about July's rent?
We were at, actually, we were at one of my friend's house after the bar. We didn't discuss my rent. I'm just like, you know, I gotta go home. I gotta deal with this. I don't have my money for the rent. She's like, I'm financially secure this month or something like that. She goes, I'd like to help you out. I'm like, cool. That was it. And the only time she bring up that I owed her money is because when I was she seen me with this other girl. I started seeing this other girl, and that's when all this came about.
Yes, go ahead.
That story has more BS than the cow fields he's referring to. First of all, I don't know anything about keys. As a matter of fact, I remember...
I'm not interested in the keys.
Okay, well...
Countersuit
okay.
Pay careful attention to me. His counterclaim is nonsense. Because if he was truly concerned, angry, felt as if you had done something that caused him to be suspended, then he wouldn't have seen you between May 30th and July. And he would have sued you, which he didn't. And he wouldn't have taken money from you, whether a gift or a loan. So I'm dismissing your counterclaim.
So why wouldn't I take the money from her?
Listen to me. I'm dismissing your counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's get to your version of how it came about that you parted with $160.
I left work one afternoon, I checked my cell phone, and I got 2 messages from the defendant. When I got home, I realized that he left another 2 messages. When I returned his call, he asked for a favor. When I asked what it was, he said that he needed to borrow some money to pay his rent.
I never said that. That's a lie.
And of course, I was hesitant to do so. But he continued to say that his brother was going to give him the money that Friday. And I told him that I would loan him the money only under the condition that his brother was paying him and he would pay me with that money.
Okay. What date did you actually hand him the money?
July 21st. I have a photocopy of the ATM receipt.
And when did you ask him for the money back?
That Friday, July 25th.
Well, he said he was going to get money, according to you, on Friday.
Well, yes, he was going to get money from his brother, which in turn he was going to give it to me. So,
Not the truth. I never mentioned my... She's lying.
So Friday came and went. He never called me. That Saturday, I went down to the restaurant where he works. I told him I was very disappointed that I didn't hear from him. He said that he had to pull some double shift or something and he didn't have time, that he was planning to call me. I asked when I was going to get paid. He asked me to return to the restaurant that evening at closing time, and he could only pay me $50 at that time. And I was a little upset because that wasn't our agreement. I left. I came back at closing time. I asked a coworker to let him know that I was there, and I found out that he already left the premises. So I let things go, let things cool down. I waited a couple of weeks or so. Well, one Thursday, which was, I believe, was August 7th, I was with a girlfriend. We went to the restaurant, and I asked him at that point, when he was planning to pay me back. He was avoiding me by, busting the tables and just walking away from me, and I was getting really frustrated at that point.
How are you avoiding you?
Miss Joyelle, one person talks at a time.
Sorry.
Okay. So anyway, he avoided me, and I said, I want to know when I'm going to get paid. He says, well, why don't you stop by my house that Sunday? And I said, well, what's going to happen on Sunday? And he became really irritated, and he said, just stop by my house. I said, I want to know what's going to happen on Sunday. And he said, just leave me alone, or I'll have you thrown out of the restaurant. And that's pretty much all of it in a nutshell.
First of all, she's lying, okay? Because this is the guy she said, the co-worker that she was talking about.
No, that wasn't him.
That's him. What the sh...
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I know her. If there was the money, I'd assume that she'd probably be like, you know when he's going to give me this money or something.
Sit down.
And later today,
Somebody told her that there was a dent in her car, and she didn't go downstairs to look at it.
No.
Is everything that you've told me as truthful as the fact that you don't drive this uninsured car?
Yes, Your Honor.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Madeline Nieves says former friend Stephen Joyle owes for an unpaid loan for rent. Stephen says Madeline flipped out when she saw him with another woman.
What is she lying about, sir?
There was never nothing about paying back. She knew that I was low on rent. And she said she'd like to help me out. So I was like, okay. And she had took me on trips before, take me out, got me loaded, stuff like that. You know what I mean? So she took me to Martha's Vineyard. She took me to...
Martha's Vineyard?
I'm not...
Miss Nieves, don't interrupt him.
Right.
The only reason why she's saying that I owe her money is because she's all upset because I'm with this other chick. And that's it.
How old are you?
She never said nothing about money or anything like that.
How old are you? This is not a hard question. They get harder.
How old am I? 29.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a waiter and busser and bar back at a house.
That is a 3-meal-a-day restaurant?
Restaurant, bar, comedy show. Maybe stop by sometime. I know you live in Connecticut.
What?
Nothing. I said maybe you might want to stop by. I'll hook you up. Free comedy show.
What an idiot. Miss Nieves, how old are you?
I'm 35. Can you please ask his witness about the evening that I went to the restaurant to ask for the money the first time, the same evening that he asked me to return, and he wasn't there? The witness there, Josh, was at the restaurant, and I asked if he's seen him, and he said no.
What day was that? Was that
That
Friday?
was July 26th.
Josh, up here, up here. What do you do at the restaurant?
I am a server at the restaurant.
You don't want to offer me a free night out, do you?
No.
Josh, that's a very wise idea.
Thank you.
But I want you to listen to me very carefully because my question's really not hard. Do you recall Miss Nieves coming into the restaurant to inquire about the whereabouts of Mr. Joyelle and her money?
She never mentioned money at all.
What did she say?
She came in, she was like, is Steve here? Steve had gotten off probably like a half hour before she had arrived at the restaurant.
Okay.
She never said anything about money.
To you? She didn't say anything to you
Nope.
about money?
But I've known her for about 6 months, so she's an acquaintance through Steve. I've been over to her house as well with Steve. I know her. So if there was the money, I'd assume that she'd probably be like, you know when he's going to give me this money or something to the sort.
Was I angry?
Sit down.
I just got booted.
Mr. Joyelle, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Excuse me?
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I don't know.
Have you thought about it?
No.
Your life is half over.
Hey, take it easy.
No. Life's half over. You got to think about what you want to be. One thing you don't want to be is you don't want to be a bum.
Yeah, that's true.
Too late, Your Honor.
Miss Nieves, you're going to talk yourself into a dismissal. Do you understand?
I understand.
Fresh mouths don't go here. I don't care what side of the bench
I
you're on.
apologize.
The only one who's allowed to have a fresh mouth is me. Men who are bums take money from women who like them and who they have no feelings for because they're users. That makes a man a bum. Do you understand?
Sure.
You don't want to be a bum, do you?
Not a bum.
You don't want to be a bum, do you?
Nope.
Good. Then you're going to give Miss Nieves back $160 and you will walk away from this relationship with your head held high and say, she helped me out, but I'm going to do the right thing, and the right thing is to pay her back. That way she doesn't have any hard feelings, and I'm going to be a man instead of a bum. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $150. That's all. And you two can leave, Josh.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I guess the judge didn't believe what I was saying. I think maybe asking her to go to the comedy show was kind of a wrong move.
I guess the judge can identify a liar when she hears one.
You never try to be funny in front of Judge Judy? That don't work.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Scarfuto versus Mahoney. Step forward.
20-year-old student Courtney Scarfuto is suing her boyfriend's roommate, 20-year-old florist Lacey Mahoney, for backing into her car.
Miss Scarfuto, is your boyfriend here? Where is he?
He's right here.
Was this your roommate?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he still your roommate?
Yes.
Okay, according to your complaint, you were over at your boyfriend's home and you claimed that the defendant hit your car as she was pulling out of the driveway. Your insurance paid for the damage to your car, but you suffered out-of-pocket expenses, $500 deductible. You had to rent a car for a couple of days while they fixed it, and you also want her to be responsible for the increased insurance premiums that you're going to have to pay. Forget that part of it. Miss Mahoney says she never hit your car. When was your car damaged?
June 10th, 2003.
And what makes you think Miss Mahoney did it?
She came upstairs, asked me to move my car. I asked Christian to move my car for me. He went downstairs.
With her?
Correct. At that time, she told him that she had hit my car.
Oh, you weren't there?
No.
Step up. Last name?
Whiteley.
Okay, let's go to June 10th. Miss Mahoney comes upstairs where you are, and she said what to you?
She pointed out the damage. She said that she had hit the car and that she was unsure whether or not that she should stay there and admit to the mistake or whether she should go ahead and pull around the car and just simply leave.
And what did you tell her?
I told her that it would be best for her to go back upstairs and to notify my girlfriend, Your Honor.
And she said?
After hesitation, she agreed and we went back upstairs.
And what happened when you got upstairs?
Me and Lacey basically reported that the car had got hit by her, even though it was parked. We all agreed that we would go ahead and handle the situation by tomorrow because we're good friends, Your Honor.
And can I speak? And because she did not carry car insurance. And so since she did not carry car insurance, that
How do you not have insurance? How do you drive without insurance?
Your Honor, I wasn't driving. I was actually moving my car backwards so that we could open up the garage door. But it was on my property in my driveway. I was just moving
That's
it.
driving. Why doesn't your car have insurance?
Because I couldn't afford insurance at the time.
So you're not driving at all? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I'm not driving at all.
Is that true?
No.
Of course not. They seem to say that you admitted hitting her car.
Your Honor, I never admitted to hitting her car. I went downstairs for Christian to move the car. We both went downstairs. And he noticed the dent and asked if I had done it, and I said no. We went back upstairs, and he told her that there was a dent in her car, and nothing was said for the rest of the night.
That doesn't sound right to me. Somebody told her that there was a dent in her car, and she didn't go downstairs to look at it?
No.
Nobody said anything? Well, who did it? Is everything that you've told me, Miss Mahoney, as truthful as the fact that you don't drive this uninsured car?
Yes, Your Honor. I don't drive my car because it's uninsured and because it's unregistered.
No, you shouldn't drive your car because it's uninsured and not registered. That doesn't mean you don't drive it. Okay. You had a $500 deductible?
Yes, would you like to see the receipt?
You have any other witnesses that you want to hear?
Yes, I do. I have Mr. Nicholas Scandalius. He actually heard her say, he was in the room with both Christian and I.
Oh, step up.
And she actually came up and said, I hit your car.
Are you another roommate?
No, I'm a very close friend of Mr. Whiteley's. I'm his best friend. I happened to be there at the night that the incident occurred.
Tell me what you remember.
All three of us were hanging out upstairs. Courtney asked Christian to move the car so Lacey could back out and leave. They both went down.
Back out and leave. Where was she going?
I have no idea.
Do you know where she was going?
I believe that she was just going to go to Huntington Beach like usual.
Go ahead.
So they both went downstairs to move the cars and whatnot. Lacey's car was directly in front of Miss Scarfuto's car in a driveway, so there's no way she could have left to right or anything. They promptly both came back upstairs very quickly, and Lacey said, "Oh my God, Courtney, I hit your car." I walked over to the windows, I saw a little dent in the hood, and Lacey's car was still behind Miss Scarfuto's car. That's what I saw, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Sit down. I see the deductible, please, and the damage to the car.
And then these photographs are Lacey's car with the spare tire, which damaged my hood. Pictures of my hood with the imprint of her spare tire, as well as the driveway.
How long did it take to fix the car?
It took 10 days, times $23.99.
So between the $500 deductible and the rental car for the days that it took to fix your car, it was $922. What else?
I'm requesting the money that the insurance paid as well, because I do not believe that Lacey should benefit from the insurance that I pay every month.
Baloney.
Okay.
That's what insurance is for. Ms. Scarfuto. What?
I didn't hit the car.
Yes,
and
you did.
honestly,
Yes, you did.
no.
You didn't hit the car and you weren't going to leave in your car.
No, I was
You were
not.
just moving it.
No.
And
I
you,
believe,
and you don't drive your car ever
no.
because it's not registered and you have no insurance.
Yes.
I don't believe you. Can you think of any reason why these two people and this gentleman would lie?
Courtney has been jealous of me and Christian.
I don't want to hear her jealous. Him.
Because
Explain that to me.
Christian is Courtney's boyfriend.
Right.
And Courtney throws a fit when she doesn't get her way.
And what about him?
Nick is Christian's best friend. And
So everybody's ganging up against you.
yeah.
Sorry. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $922. Thank you. That's all. Step out.
Yes, case number 255 on the calendar, the man of Connolly versus White. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Thaddeus, is that right?
Yes.
How old are you, Thaddeus?
I'm 26.
So you were 25 when you rented this hotel room and vandalized it, is that right?
That is correct.
What kind of work do you do, Thaddeus?
I'm a cook.
How long have you been a cook at the place where you're currently employed?
I'm not employed at this moment, actually.
So you do nothing?
No. I'm a little injured right now. I can't work.
What's the nature of your injury?
Well, because I work with my hands. I got a dislocated finger. I can't.
How long
do
have you had a
anything with stuff.
dislocated finger?
About a week and a half, 2 weeks.
And prior to that, where were you working, Thaddeus?
I was working at Sylvester's in Los Osos, California.
Could you stand still?
Oh, yeah.
According to Ms. Connolly's complaint, this is what this case is about. Bert, I want you to pay careful attention. I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible so Thaddeus can understand what the case is about, okay?
Okey doke.
Thaddeus, another woman, and Miss Connolly were in a hotel room. Mr. White, that's Thaddeus over here, he had rented the hotel room. They all got splash drunk and wrecked the hotel room. Now, Miss Connolly was 17 years old at the time, but Mr. Thaddeus White and the other young lady were over the age of 18. They were, in fact, arrested.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. White.
Oop. Sorry.
Mr. White asked Miss Connolly if she could help out because the hotel was prepared to drop the charges if the people who done vandalized the property paid for it.
Oh,
Got it?
sounds good.
Mr. White, despite the fact that he had more years, less brains, but more years than the other two, he said to Miss Connolly, I will give you back the money, half of it, and the other lady, what was her name?
Her name is Vanessa.
Vanessa is going to give you back the other half. So Miss Connolly said, well, I was there too, and I wasn't arrested because I was only 17. They let me off the hook. Miss Connolly said, I am going to cash in all the money I have in the world, a CD, so that I can give you the money so we can pay off the hotel, and then it'll all be neat. So far, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Mr. White paid back
I
how
gave
much?
$400.
Leaving how much on the debt to Miss Connolly?
$1,200.
Is that right, Miss Connolly?
Yes, at the time it was correct.
But then Vanessa, the elusive Vanessa, left the jurisdiction. So Miss Connolly said to Thaddeus, well, she left the jurisdiction, you got to pay her half too, right?
That is true.
Mr. White said, well, if that's what you have to say, I'm not paying anything. I'm not paying the $1,200 that I owe you, or I'm not paying her money either. Isn't that what you said?
Pretty much.
Now, just a couple of background questions so that I understand the nature of your stupidity.
Okay.
You rented this room when?
Around June 2nd.
What did you rent it for, Thaddeus?
To stay in a couple days as in between moving.
So you needed a place to stay?
Yeah.
And was this a hotel or a motel?
Yeah.
It's hotel.
Hotel.
Only your finger was injured, is that right?
Well, as far as I know. Did have a terrible skateboarding accident, kind of hit my face. I could have done some damage.
Okay. So you rented the hotel, motel to stay in. You stayed there for a couple of days. When did you invite Miss Connolly and Vanessa to join you?
Actually, she came with one of my co-workers that I worked with at Pizza Port.
Who provided the alcohol?
I provided my own alcohol. She came with alcohol herself.
No, I didn't.
He did.
Shh. Anyway, everybody got drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And you vandalized the hotel?
Yes, we did.
Any particular reason for that?
Drunken stupidity, I guess.
Well, that's honest. Where do you live now?
I live in Morro Bay, California.
With whom?
My parents.
How long have you lived with your parents?
I just moved back to Morro Bay in April.
They must be thrilled.
Oh, they love me. What can I say?
When did you make your first payment, Thaddeus?
I think it was on the first paycheck I got from my work.
Why did you stop making payments, Thaddeus?
I never knew how to get a hold of her.
I came into your work like every single day.
Look,
No, you
don't
didn't.
talk to him, talk to me.
Well, I went into his work.
Every
because
time I
my
had the money,
boyfriend
she was
at the
never
time-
around.
You didn't have
Don't talk
any.
to him.
Thad didn't have any identification, so he couldn't even go to the bank and cash his checks. So he had to go to the bank with his boss, and it was a big deal. Half the time the bank wouldn't cash it. It's not my responsibility that he has no identification and he can't go about getting money. So every time I went in, he's like, oh, hold
He's
on.
25?
Yes.
And he doesn't have any money?
Oh, no, I lost my wallet. I didn't have ID to cash my checks with.
What ID did you have in your wallet?
My California identification card?
How long were you without it?
I don't know. Close to 6 months?
Do you have a driver's license?
Not at the moment.
Why not?
A little trouble.
What kind of trouble?
I got a DUI a while ago.
When?
I'm not really sure. It was a long time ago.
That's why they took away your driver's license, Thaddeus? Because you had one DUI?
Yep, that's right.
No, Thaddeus, that's not right. I think you forgot something. You left out a couple of pieces to the puzzle.
No.
Did you go for classes?
Oh yeah, I did most of the classes. Then I moved.
Well, that's
and
the problem. You did most of the classes.
I didn't, that's why I can't get my license back
you
right
have
now.
to do all the classes, Thaddeus.
Yeah, I know.
Your parents must be thrilled having you home.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
What happened to the car, Jennifer?
Andrew had been talking to his father, and his father decided that he shouldn't be driving. There was some snow on the road. It was pretty much dry.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Darlene Connolly says former friend Thad White owes for trashing a hotel room during a night of partying.
Miss Connolly, he doesn't know you for Vanessa. You have to go find Vanessa. You have to go find Vanessa because I'm not making it easy for you, madam, because you were just as stupid as he was.
Yes.
So you go find Vanessa. But he owes you $1,200. He acknowledges he owes you $1,200. He doesn't know you Vanessa's share. Go find her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thad started out by
throwing his shoes against the wall.
Cut back on the 151 or something, probably.
Then a very large and expensive wooden chair off the third floor balcony.
Pay attention more often when I'm like drinking or whatever.
And then pretty much everything else in the hotel room off the balcony.
It doesn't really matter. Everything's fine with me.
I was young, stupid, whatever.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Alexiak Galgan. Step forward, please.
Real estate agent Jeff Johnson is suing 18-year-old Andrew Oleksiak and his girlfriend, 19-year-old nanny Jennifer Galgan, for damage to his vehicle. Jeff says while test driving his car, the couple had a wreck.
Mr. Johnson, son?
Yes, son Gregory.
Oh, you weren't there the day that your son Gregory gave them the car to test drive, or were you?
I was.
You were?
Yes.
Oh, then that makes it all the better. You want them to pay you, these two people, $5,000 because she had an accident with a car that you and or your son was selling. They came over to take a test drive. He got in the car, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You gave him permission to test drive the car, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Your Honor.
He got around the corner. He gave her permission to get behind the wheel. She had an accident and wrecked the car. Is that what this case is about?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's relatively easy. Give me the date.
February 18th,
What time of the day?
8:30 in the evening.
How did they get to your car? Was there a sign on the car? Or did they know your son?
It was advertised for sale.
And they came over. So you didn't know them prior to this date. Is that right?
I personally did not. My son did.
Oh, step up. First name.
Gregory.
Yours?
Andrew, Your Honor.
How old are you?
17.
And you?
18, Your Honor.
How old were you in February?
17, Your Honor.
First name.
Jennifer,
How old are you, Jennifer?
19.
Were you 18 or 19 in February?
I was 19.
Now, how did you know Andrew?
He had came to see the car prior to the day that they crashed the car. He had came over to look at the car before that day.
So you didn't know him from school. It was just a business.
No, ma'am.
Did you ask him how old he was?
No.
Did you?
I did not.
That was a big mistake. Because at 17, he's not responsible. You have no case against him. You understand that? Well, if you don't, I'm telling you. He's a minor. And he is shielded by a law that says minors are not responsible for what they do. You know that?
Yes, I do.
Then if you know that, why did you sue him?
I think there was a fraud that was created when he allowed Jennifer to drive the vehicle. He had driven the vehicle once prior and had proven that he was capable of driving the vehicle. And then he somehow, in a period of 9 residential households, decided he shouldn't be driving a car without a driver's license and turned the keys over to his girlfriend.
Let me tell you this. If he was 17, 16, 15 years old and came to your house to buy the car, and you gave him permission to drive the car, which you had done before because you test drove the car before, and if he was in an accident in that car and got seriously injured, his mother would sue you. You would be liable. Do you understand that? A minor cannot be held liable for acts such as breach of contract, negligence. He wasn't even negligent. He did something that a kid would do. He said, Jennifer, you can drive the car. Is this your girlfriend?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. But Jennifer's responsible. What happened to the car, Jennifer?
We traded places, and I started
Why did
driving.
you trade places after he let Andrew drive the car?
Because Andrew had been talking to his father, and his father decided that he shouldn't be driving. Andy thought about that, and then there was some snow on the road. It was pretty much dry.
Andy was talking to his father in the car after Mr. Johnson gave him the keys?
No, after the first time that Andy had driven the car, he was talking to his dad.
Okay, just a second. Jennifer, I just want to get it all clear. Andrew took a test drive on the car and then said to you at some point on the 18th of February, I would like to go back and test drive the car again to see if I want to buy it. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
And you said, fine, let's go. You get to the Johnson house and Mr. Johnson is there. Andy says, take the keys, I want to take the car around. I'd like my girlfriend to ride with me. Is that,
Yes, Your
in
Honor.
sum and substance, that's what happened?
Yes.
Now, what I want to know, Jennifer, is when did this epiphany strike Andrew about the conversation that he had with his father?
Oh, he was thinking about it the whole time. He was worried, but
Well, just a minute. Was he
wasn't
worried as you... Just a second, Jennifer. Was he worried as you pulled up to Mr. Johnson's house, do you think? Just a second. You think he was worried when he pulled up to Mr. Johnson's house?
I guess.
And was he worried when he took the keys from Mr. Johnson and Mr. Johnson put the keys in his hand and Andy got in the car? Was he worried then?
I guess.
And was he worried when he took the keys and put the keys in the ignition and turned the ignition on and put his foot on the gas?
Yes, but then...
And was he worried when he pulled out of the driveway or away from Mr. Johnson's car and pulled around the block? He was worried?
Yes.
Okay, so this epiphany came to him that he could no longer drive this car as he turned the corner. Is that what happened?
Yes,
Your
Your
epiphany
Honor.
came to you.
Yes.
You know what an epiphany is?
Not quite, Your Honor.
Stay in school. Okay, so after Andrew had the epiphany, I assume you know what an epiphany is. We give a test later. Andrew said what to you?
He just asked me to drive it. He said he...
What did he say? No, I want to know what he said. He didn't say. He said, "Hon, will you drive the car?" Or, "Listen, I'm going to get out of the car now," or "I just had my epiphany."
He just said, "You know what? There's a little bit of snow on the road. I really don't think I should be driving. Would you please take over for me?"
Why did you get in the car with him in the first place knowing he didn't have a license?
I wasn't really thinking about that.
You hadn't had your epiphany yet. So what happened?
I started driving. It was pretty dark. For the most part, the roads were clear, and then all of a sudden the road was covered in snow. This car started fishtailing, and it hit a tree.
And was it destroyed?
The front end was pretty bad.
What kind of car is this, Mr. Johnson?
This is a Mazda MX-6, 1993.
You have a blue book on the car with the mileage that you had on your car?
I don't have a blue book value, but I have an estimate of the damages.
The car's 10 years old. How many miles did the car have on it?
Car had
75,000.
What were you selling it for?
3,800, I believe.
How much was
We had
the car
agreed.
listed?
We had agreed to 3,800, Your Honor.
Why are you suing for $5,000?
the damage repair was in excess to $5,000. So if they didn't want to finish the transaction, we would have had to repair the car in order to make it saleable again. In its current condition, it's certainly not saleable.
But you agreed to sell it to him for $3,800, so the value of the car to you was $3,800.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Where's the car now?
The car is parked behind a friend's shop and not drivable.
Well, it's not drivable. Maybe Jennifer can drive it. She just bought it for $3,800. Right, Jennifer? It's your fault. You shouldn't have gotten behind the wheel of the car. You shouldn't have been driving with him. He had no license. Now, Mr. Johnson was probably wrong. He should have said to Andrew, Andrew, let me see your driver's license because I want to make sure you have a valid driver's license and that you're over the age of 18. Should have done that. What?
Your Honor, state of Michigan is a no-fault state. I'm not sure if you're aware of no fault, but in this particular case, Mr. Johnson's car was not insured. It did not have collision or comprehensive insurance. It had what they call personal liability and property damage.
Yes.
And in Michigan, we have the mini-tort liability law, which enables somebody to sue for up to only $500, only to cover a deductible in which insurance would pay for. So Mr. Johnson should only be able to get $0 because he was uninsured, Your Honor.
Let me ask you this question, Andrew. Let's talk about common sense. The law is supposed to have a certain common sense to it. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And if the law does not have a common sense to it, then it's wrong. Is that right?
No, Your Honor.
Yes. Certain laws were enacted at the time of horse and buggies. That's no longer applicable. When was the last time you saw a horse and buggy on the 10 freeway? At the end of a trial, what's supposed to happen is the just and fair thing. You and your girlfriend deprived Mr. Johnson of the ability to sell his car for $3,800 because you were not honest with Mr. Johnson about the fact that you did not have a driver's license. Now, when you went back, according to your girlfriend, you felt a little guilty because you had conned him, because according to your girlfriend, you knew you shouldn't be driving. You knew you didn't have a license, which is the reason why you asked her to drive the car. She also did the wrong thing because you're right around the corner. All you had to do was pull the car over, park it, go back and say, the roads look bad. I don't have a license. I left the car there. I'm sorry. You chose not to do that. You chose to let Jennifer drive the car.
Jeffrey Johnson chose to threaten my entire family to kill us if we didn't pay.
I want you to practice these words when you're in bed at night, when you have a quiet moment. I want you to try practicing these words because I don't think that you've said them often enough in your life at the appropriate time. I'm sorry I did the wrong thing. 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 It was my fault. I'll take responsibility. I want you to practice that. You'll be a much happier adult when you do. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,800 against you, Jennifer. That's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Zook versus Brown. Step forward, please.
Computer business owner Carl Zook is suing 27-year-old bartender Kristen Brown for crashing into his parked car. Kristen says Carl is suing the wrong person.
Mr. Zook, would you remove that from the bench, please? Thank you very much. Mr. Zook, on what date was your parked car destroyed?
It was August 11th of 2002.
According to what I've read, your car was parked in front of your home, or not far from your home, and you were awakened by some loud noise. You came outside to find that your car had been severely damaged by a car that was white in color. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you saw the car pull away, and then the car came back again, barreling down the street and took off. As it turns out, I find that the car that damaged your car belonged to the defendant.
That's correct.
The defendant says that her car was stolen by someone. She doesn't know who. It's out of her control, and therefore she is not responsible for the damage to your car. You want her to pay for the damage to your car.
That's correct.
She says she's not responsible for the damage to your car. She wasn't driving her car when the incident happened. Her car was stolen. Is that what the case is about?
I don't know if the defendant claims the car is stolen.
The car wasn't in her control.
Correct.
She didn't have it.
Correct.
Okay. August 11th, 2002, where were you?
I was bartending.
What time did you go to work on the 11th?
I had to be there at 9 o'clock. 9 p.m.
9 p.m.?
Yes.
Who is this?
This is the other bartender that night, and we both closed the bar together.
Okay. So when you got to work at 9 o'clock, you were driving. What kind of car were you driving?
I have a white Acura.
What year?
94.
Where did you park the car?
There's a parking lot behind the bar.
Any other cars there?
Yeah, quite a few.
Okay, and what time did you close up?
The bar closes at 2, and then it takes us at least 45 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half to close down the bar. We have to count out the register, clean the bar, tip out the doorman, all sorts of stuff. So we usually leave about 3 a.m.
Okay, 2 o'clock, closed, 2:45, 3 o'clock, you're out the door. And what happens when you get outside?
Usually get in my car and go home.
Well, what happened on the 11th of August?
That night, I actually, right before closing...
Try looking at me, right here.
Sorry. Right before closing, I think I was starting to gather my stuff. I usually keep my car keys and other, lipstick, personal belongings on the back of the bar, and I noticed that my car keys were gone. And I ran out the back door to the parking lot and then noticed that my car was gone. Now, I had figured it's a really local bar. I have a ton of friends that hang out there. Everybody knows my car, and I just figured, one of my friends had too many drinks, did something stupid, took off with my car, so then I just asked the door guy if he could give me a ride home, and he took me home.
Mm-hmm. What information does this person have to contribute to this case?
Well, Peter can testify that at the time that the accident happened, I was still working, so that I was not behind the wheel of the car.
I don't even think that this gentleman thinks that you were necessarily behind the wheel of the car.
Well,
that doesn't mean that you didn't give the keys to somebody. What time was your car damaged?
1:55 a.m.
So she was working?
Yes.
I believe you were working. I don't believe that you are clueless as to who had your car. Madam, do you want to know why?
Why?
2 reasons. Because instead of bringing a witness who can testify to your surprise when you got outside and saw that you didn't have a car, you brought somebody who was going to just tell me that you were there. That was never an issue with the police, that it was you behind the wheel of the car. Maybe a boyfriend. Maybe a friend to whom you had given the keys. And second, that you didn't report this car stolen, did you?
No.
Well, here we have your white Acura that's missing. It's in the middle of the night. it's your only means of transportation, and you don't call the police to say to them, listen, somebody took my car, especially since you just said to me, I thought maybe one of my friends who had been drinking or something took my car. Somebody's drinking, driving your car in the middle of the night, and you don't think that that's cause to pick up the phone and call the police? For those reasons, madam, I don't believe your story. The police may have believed your story, but I don't. Who's Tom?
That was my boyfriend at the time.
Well, Tom brought your car in to be repaired.
That's what boyfriends do for girlfriends.
If they drive the car.
Or just as a favor.
Or if they drive the car. Oh, good. I'm glad to see this police officer also finds that you're full of baloney. Brown did not want to file a stolen vehicle report. I questioned her about the facts and told her that I did not find her story credible. Wow. Oh, good for you. I asked her if she was willing to take a polygraph test. She declined. The boyfriend was also offered to take a polygraph test. He also miraculously declined. Can I see the bills, please? I had enough. I hate people who don't fess up to their responsibilities. Is he still your boyfriend?
No, Your Honor.
When did he stop being your boyfriend?
Just recently.
Did he dump you or did you dump him?
It was mutual.
That's usually not true. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $5,000, which doesn't cover the damage, sir, but it's all I can give you. That's all. Step out.
All right. This is case number 261 on the calendar in the matter of Tozan versus Griffin. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Miss Tozan, who is this?
This is my fiancé.
And who is this?
My husband.
The defendant is your mother-in-law.
Ex-mother-in-law.
The mother of your former husband.
Right.
And you have children with your former husband. How many children do you have?
One.
Your mother-in-law had been very involved with your child. It's a girl?
Yes, ma'am.
And as a matter of fact, according to what I've read in her answer, your daughter lived with her for a period of time. Is that right?
That's correct.
How old is your daughter now?
She'll be 11.
And for how long did she live with Miss Griffin?
I'd say for a period of 6 to 8 months.
Is that right?
Almost a year.
And when was that?
May of 95 till April of 96.
Was that a court-ordered arrangement?
Yes, it was.
Because I assume your son and daughter-in-law had some problems that had to be resolved.
Yes, ma'am, right.
And you have had and enjoyed visitation with your granddaughter, regular weekend visitation. I don't know if it's every other week or once a month.
Once a month.
Once a month. Since she went back to her mother. So far, right?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
But then some problems arose. Your complaint is that your former mother-in-law called Child Protective Services, as well as the police, and made certain allegations against you, and you want to be compensated because you claimed those allegations were false. She knew that they were false, and she had no basis to make the calls to Child Protective Services. That's what your lawsuit is about.
Yes.
And Miss Griffin said that she did have concern for her granddaughter, which is why she placed the calls. And she is counterclaiming for the emotional distress that she suffered as a result of the fact that you no longer let her see her granddaughter. I don't know if I'm going to even reach that because that should be the subject of a court proceeding. You were given court-ordered visitation, Mrs. Griffin, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go back to court to enforce your visitation?
Not yet.
Well, then I'm not going to entertain your counterclaim because the court may, in fact, decide that they're going to vacate the order. I hope not. Maybe we can deal with it today so that that won't be necessary. So without getting too emotional, I want you to tell me, Miss Griffin, since you acknowledge that you called Child Protective Services, what caused you to do that?
I can't do it without being emotional.
Okay.
The day on July 11th,
Take a breath for a minute.
While she was at our house.
Let me ask you some questions, and maybe you can compose yourself, all right? Was July 11th the day that you say this happened? Was this during a weekend visitation that you had with her? How did she come to be at your house?
This is how it started. Devin never gets to do anything because her mother can't afford it. So we decided maybe she needed a break, and we offered to pay for a day camp because her cousin was going, and they're close.
So far, is that correct, Ms. Charles?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
So we asked Robin if it was okay with her, and we would pay for it. But she'd have to come stay at the house for the summer. Well, it's 6 weeks. It was 6 weeks of camp. And I was supposed to get her 4 weeks in the summer anyway. Okay, finally she said yes, she can go. So that's how she was at the house. Well, my son had called. Now, he told me all his legal stuff was taken care of, but...
Your son, her former husband.
Right. And, you know, why should I not believe it, you know? Although I shouldn't have, but I did. And anyway, he called and he said they had a Nikita that died, and we had a Nikita I wanted to get rid of. Too big, too strong for me. So he said, Mama, we'll take her. I said, okay. So Devin was at the house, and she hadn't seen her dad but 3 times in 7 years. And she loves her dad. Her mama can't change that. She asked us if she could go. Well, we called Robin. David asked Robin. He said, here's the deal. We're going for the day. We're not going to their place. We're not spending the night or nothing. We're just bringing the dog. Is it okay with you if Devin goes with us? She said, yeah, I guess it'll be okay. Well, the next night she calls. She says, she can't go unless I have a phone number and address. She said the only reason why she wanted it was because of emergencies. Well, she promised Devin, because Devin asked her, Mama, are you going to try and do anything about Daddy? She says, no, Devin, I'm not. And she promised her she wasn't going to use the information for anything, just in case there's an emergency and she needed to reach us. So you gave her the information? Gave her the information. The next morning she calls me, cussing 90 to nothing, cussing me out. Why don't you do some checking into background since you like to check into background so much? I said, what are you talking about? She says, Kirk still got a warrant against him. I said, oh, really? I said, well, I'll check into it. Well, isn't his girlfriend's ex-husband this? I said, no, it's not. That's not her name. Well, come to find out, the phone they had called from, she had Devin give her the name of the person that was on the caller ID. So I said, well, I'll check into it. And she said, well, I'm coming to pick her up at 4 o'clock today when she gets out of camp. I said, okay, fine, whatever.
Okay, so she wasn't going to let her go.
Right. So Devin, of course, broke down. We went into my room, and we were watching TV, and I was holding her because she was crying so hard. She was so upset. She goes, my mama lied to me again. I said, baby, you have to understand, your mama's worried. I said, you know, because your dad is still got a warrant against him. I said, he lied to us again. And I called him and told him she was not coming.
What's the warrant for, Miss Griffin?
Theft, all fields of theft. So I said, baby, I said, you're going to have to go. I said, Mama's coming to get you. I don't want to go. And she proceeded to tell us, you know, things like, Mama's been smoking, they've been smoking drugs at the house. And I said, baby, how do you know that? Have you seen it? She goes, Grandma, I know the difference between cigarette smoke. I've been around it all my life, and other smoke. Okay. So I said, okay. I said, baby, you have to go.
You have to go home.
You have to go home.
So I still haven't heard.
She says she came twice and knocked on the door. Well, I didn't hear because we had the fan on, the TV on, and Devin was crying, and I'm holding her, and I didn't hear her knocking. Well, I finally got Devin calmed down, and I walked out, and I heard the door. I opened the door, and she said, where have you been? I said, right here.
Okay.
So I said, why don't you sit down and let's talk about how Devin's feeling? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, she's upset because she feels like that you lied to her again. Too bad. She'll just have to get over it. She started cussing at me, yelling at me, calling me every name in the book. Devin got scared. Robin says, get your effing out here now.
Okay.
She opened the door, screamed at her mother, shocked me. True. She said, I'm not going with you. And I went, I mean, she just totally shocked me. And then she goes, Grandma, telephone, and then she ran back in the room and slammed the door. I'm lost. I don't know what's going on. She takes off out the door to go call the police. I'm going to get the police to get my daughter. She didn't have to do that. Devin called the police before she left out the door because of Robin cussing and screaming and hollered at me. So the police called. I said, this is Mrs. Griffin. He goes, well, we got a call from there. And I said, well, my ex-daughter-in-law just left to go call you. I said, but... So I said, Devin, did you call the police? She said, yes, I did, Grandma. I said, oh, God.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, stability is the most important thing in a child. Is this your first fiancé since your divorce?
Yes. She's been married since my son.
Oh.
She's got 4 kids, 2 illegitimate, all 4 different fathers.
And later today...
You're entitled to wake up one morning, Mr. Fisher, and say, I think I've made a mistake. I don't think Beth and I are right for each other. What you're not entitled to do is to be a sleazebag.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robin Tozen says her ex-mother-in-law, Pamela Griffin, falsely accused her of neglecting her daughter.
When and why did you call Child Protective Services, Ms. Griffin?
Okay, because when she left, her mama sent her back in to get everything that she had at my house because she was never coming back again.
Okay.
She came in and she was crying and she said, Grandma, I have to get everything that I have here because Mama said I'm not coming back again.
Okay.
And then she looked at me and she goes, you know what's going to happen to me when I get home, don't you? And then she grabbed me and started hugging me.
That's why you called Child
That's why I called Child. No,
Okay.
First of all, I didn't call the police that night. I was so distraught, my husband called. Well, CPS in St. Martin Parish is not open 24 hours, and they weren't. This was a Friday night. So my husband said, I'm going to call because of what Devin said.
Fine. Got it. Now, Miss Townsend, I have just a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
I take everything that Miss Griffin says with a grain of salt. Generally, that's what happened. Generally, her son, who is clearly a deadbeat father who has not enjoyed a consistent relationship with his child because he's in and out of trouble and he can't get his act straight. He's probably got a terrible lifestyle. Despite all of that, he's the one you chose to father this child, and if the child has an attachment to him because every child likes to have a father, that's your fault. You picked him.
Right.
However, I want to know whether at some point you sent the child back into the house to get all of her things because you said to her, you're not going back to Grandma's.
No, that's not what I said.
What did you say?
She only came out with like a plastic bag and a small duffel bag. And upon her staying with her grandmother, I went and bought her several new outfits. That's what I sent her back in there for.
Now, she was still going to camp on July 11th, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she continue to go to camp after she came home?
No, she did not.
Why not?
That was her choice because we started adding on to where we live.
Well, if she would have stayed with her grandmother, she would have continued to go to camp. That was your arrangement.
Right.
So you chose not to send her back to her grandmother.
She chose not to go back to her grandmother.
I'm not sure that that's true. Who are you?
I'm Kerry Como, a witness.
A witness to what?
I just wanted to say that Devin was supposed to spend the weekends with us. She was only supposed to go for the week to camp, and on the weekends come home.
Let me explain something to you. You are a stranger to this. This has nothing to do with you. She is the only constant that this child has known since she's born. Not her father, and for a period of time, not even her mother. The only one who has been there all the time is her grandmother. We understand each other?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Good. That would be a fair statement, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Miss Griffin, you're in a difficult position. You were a parent for a short period of time to this child, but you're no longer a parent, you're her grandmother. And you probably feel as if you can do a better job.
I didn't say that.
Listen to me. You probably think you can do a better job, and it's very possible you could do a better job.
Well, she'd have more stability.
Right. Well, stability is the most important thing in a child. Is this your first fiancé since your divorce?
Yes.
She's been married since my son.
Oh.
She's got 4 kids, 2
Yes, I was
illegitimate,
married.
all
Okay,
4 different
just
fathers.
a second. How old are your other children?
6, 2, and 16 months.
And how many people fathered those 3 children?
3.
3 different people.
Mm-hmm.
Then, absolutely right, Miss Griffin. Your granddaughter would have more stability if she lived with you. Unfortunately, children don't get the opportunity of picking their parents. Do you think you're a good mother?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Well, I'm going to tell you what a good mother does. A good mother does what she thinks is best for her children. Not best for you, but best for her children. And your 11-year-old daughter needs to spend time with her grandmother. It's very wrong of you and very selfish of you not to allow and encourage your granddaughter to continue to see her grandma. It's wrong. And you've made a lot of mistakes in your life. I mean, I can tell that from your history.
I agree.
And the one smart thing that you did was to have her son as the father of one of your children because she's a stand-up person, right? It's the wrong thing. In any event, you have no basis to sue her for calling the police. You have no basis to sue her for calling Child Protective Services. Your mother-in-law has seen, based upon what you told me about yourself, numerous instances of what she might perceive as neglect. Certainly 3 children with 3 different men floating in and out of the house is evidence enough of neglect for me, and I'm a grandma. She didn't call Child Protective Services then. She didn't try to get custody away from you then. The reason she called Child Protective Services was because the child made statements to her and she feared for her safety. And I believe probably legitimately. So your lawsuit is dismissed, as is your counterclaim. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She hates Devin's father so bad, so much, that she'll try and do everything she can to hurt him.
She thought I was an unfit mother. She would have called 8 years ago. She was mad and she did it out of spite.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Toda versus Fisher. Step forward, please.
Tammy and Stephen Toda are suing their daughter's ex-fiancé, 21-year-old security guard Alan Fisher, for half the cost of a wedding that never happened.
Mr. Fisher, who is this person?
My wife.
Is there any reason that she's here?
Because I want her to be with me.
Want her to be with you?
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Toda, this is your daughter, I assume. Your daughter and the defendant were engaged to be married. And according to your complaint, you secured a place and invited 200 guests. And the defendant came to you just shortly before the wedding and said he didn't want to get married.
Right.
You're not looking for that money from Mr. Fisher. You're just looking for certain expenses, a couple of $100, really because you're angry.
Yes.
When was the wedding supposed to take place?
June 21st.
Is that correct so far, Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
When did you marry your wife?
September 4th.
When did you meet her?
I've known her for 4 years.
When did you start seeing her romantically?
We've been seeing each other on and off for like 3 years.
Did Miss Toda know about that?
Nope.
Well, that wasn't fair, was it?
Not really.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tammy and Stephen Toda claim their daughter's ex-fiancé, Alan Fisher, called off the wedding at the last second.
I would ordinarily say to Mr. and Mrs. Toda, good riddance to him.
Yes.
He is dishonest, dishonorable, sleazy, and your daughter is better off without him.
Yes, she is.
But I'm not prepared at this point to make it so easy for Mr. Fisher. He's entitled to change his mind about getting married. You are entitled to that, Mr. Fisher. You're entitled to wake up one morning, Mr. Fisher, and say, I think I've made a mistake. I don't think that... What's your first name? Beth?
Beth.
I don't think Beth and I are right for each other. We've been together a long time, but I don't think we're right for each other. And before I make a big mistake, for both of us, I have to call off the wedding. You're entitled to do that, right?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
What you're not entitled to do is to be a sleazebag and to have somebody else on the side for years while these people are in good faith planning a wedding and spending money that you're involved with. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
That's almost like fraud. Wouldn't you say so?
No.
What would you say?
Things wasn't working out. And she knew that. We fought a lot. I told her that I wasn't ready.
You had somebody else, sir.
Yes, I did.
You didn't tell her that.
She knew.
She did. You just told me 2 seconds ago that she didn't know.
She had to have known. How can you not?
Is what you're telling me that Beth knew that you had a relation... What's your first name?
Candy.
That Beth knew that you had a relationship with Candy.
She had to have.
What information that you imparted to her would lead her to suspect that you were intimate with someone else? Tell me.
I mean, we never spent time together, really. We didn't talk or nothing. She had to have known.
You mean...
Always come up with excuses of why I couldn't come see her and that.
So what you're telling me is, I'm going to enjoy this. I this was just cut and dry, but you know. Shh, quiet. This is going to be better than your $200. I want you to trust me on this one. You mean you would make up excuses to her why you couldn't see her? Is that what you just said to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me an excuse.
She wanted me to come see her. I told her I had to work.
And when you said, I have to work, you had a job. When you
Right.
told her I have to work, you had a job at the time.
Right.
So what was it that you said that would lead her to suspect that you were lying?
Nothing, really. Just told her that I had to work.
Mr. and Mrs. Toda, you're not entitled to any money from him. You planned this wedding. He was not to participate in the cost of the wedding. So there's no basis for your lawsuit. But I want you to feel good about this, Beth, because you found out in time that the man that you were going to invest your life with had a bad character. Now, you can change a lot of things in this world. You can change your nose, you can change your hairstyle, you can change your hair color. The one thing that you can't change is if you have a bad character. He and Candy can deal with his character. you understand? Now, I'm going to look at you for a second. Do you see how easily he said he lied to Beth?
Yes.
I'd watch my back if I were you. The case is dismissed, that's all. But we're involved in an incident that can be described as a road rage incident. It is your claim that Mr. Azure caused this accident, which damaged your car. He says it was you who caused the accident. He said that you hit him in the rear. He is counterclaiming because he alleges that because of your conduct, he was forced to drop out of school, to have his education delayed, and he has a counterclaim. When did this incident happen, Miss Pincher?
February 3rd, 2005.
What time of the day or evening?
Approximately 10:30 in the morning.
And where were you going?
I was on my way to work.
Where do you work?
Sacred Heart Medical Building.
What kind of a car were you driving?
Honda Civic, 97.
What kind of car were you driving?
I was driving a 87 Toyota Corolla.
Where were you going?
I was going home. I was leaving school.
You had been in school that morning?
Yeah, I just got out at 10:20, and I was on my way home.
Okay, so Ms. Pinchuk, you tell me your version of what happened, please.
I was driving westbound on Mission.
Show me on your diagram, please.
This
Which
is me
color
here.
are you?
I'm B.
You're blue.
Yes. As I'm driving here, there's a bus that's moving. He pulls out from behind the bus and cuts me off right here. So I went into this turn lane to avoid the accident. I'm attempting to get back over, but he's not letting me. So at this point, after I honked my horn, he then let me in, which as I came here, and he was a bit further down here, this is where we hit because he was driving erratically and he slammed on his brakes. And to avoid hitting him again, I turned this way. And that's how the damage occurred on that side of the car.
Okay, so what you're saying is he cut you off.
Yes.
You had to get back into a driving lane.
Yes.
Ultimately, he let you back in the driving lane, but then slammed on his brakes, causing you to swerve.
Yes.
And that's how the back of his car and the front of your car were damaged.
Correct.
Okay, fine. Now we'll hear you.
Okay, it started with the bus stop. There was actually another car in front of me. The first car proceeded to go around the bus, made it around. I looked, there was nobody behind me. I proceeded into this lane. I was all the way up here, and all of a sudden I heard a series of honking. She was in a hurry to get somewhere, and I just wasn't going fast enough for her. I looked into my rearview mirror. She's on the cell phone, driving, honking her horn, and then she proceeds to go on my driver's side to pass me. She must have thought that was another lane, because it widens out there for about 50 feet, and then it closes out real quick, and then goes right back into the two lanes. And she proceeded to pass me, Your Honor. She was all the way up as far as my back door on my driver's side. And as soon as I seen that, I started to slow down to let her proceed so she could proceed to pass. But she couldn't do it because there's oncoming traffic coming. So then she stopped to try to swing back around to get back behind me. And I feel that it was all her fault. She was on a cell phone. If she wasn't talking on that cell phone, maybe she could have used that other hand to flip the blinker and switch into the lane that was completely open.
Okay. Now, you had some damage to your car?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of damage did you have to your car?
Do you want to see pictures?
Mm-hmm.
I have two different estimates. The pictures are on the back of each page of the estimate.
What happened when the police arrived?
One officer talked to me, and I told him the story, and basically he wrote out the report, and that was it. He said that he attempted to contact my witness.
Do you have a police report?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? You were cited for an improper lane usage.
I didn't commit it. It was found non-committed.
Did you have a hearing with regard to that?
Yes, with extenuating circumstances. My witness was there to attend as well.
What is your name, sir?
Sonny Shaver.
Stand up, please. Do you know the plaintiff?
I never met her till that day.
You were driving on the 3rd of February?
I was the oncoming traffic, Your Honor.
Show me where your car was.
I was here. This island stops and, like he said, becomes two double yellow lines that narrow down back to a 4-lane street. When I saw him, she was behind him. He went about halfway into this lane with half his car. Then all of a sudden he came back and she dived to the left to avoid him. And I thought, oh, going to get hit head on here. She slammed on the brakes and cut it to the left. He cut it to the left across the double yellow line and stopped, and she hit him. So I drove around the block and said, I'll be a witness for you.
And you gave her your name?
Gave her my business card.
And you did come down with her to testify on her behalf?
Yes, ma'am.
It was very nice of you.
Well, I saw she rear-ended him, and that's almost always automatically her fault, and I felt it wasn't, so.
And you and Miss Pinchuk didn't know each other?
No, ma'am.
That's totally false. I had no reason to turn. I was a mile down my road. She was reckless driving. I was trying to avoid her.
Well, I'm looking at you, Mr. Azure, because Mr. Shaver doesn't know the plaintiff, right?
I can't tell you.
And when you stopped, did you see Mr. Shaver there that day?
No, he was not there.
Did you see him?
He was yelling at me, some foul things.
No.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Nope. He told me, you can't freaking stop in the middle of the road. And I
So,
was like,
just a second, Mr. Asher. Mr. Asher. Mr. Asher, you just said you didn't see him there that day.
Well,
how could you tell me that you didn't see him there that day, and then 2 seconds later tell me what he was yelling at you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I do not believe that it was him. There was a guy there.
Listen to me. That was him. He
Was
didn't
it?
Yeah, it was him.
No, there was a guy that didn't want to wait
Listen
for
to
the
me.
police officer.
Listen to me. It was him.
And later today,
He didn't steal the car keys. He didn't grab them out of her pocket. She was drunk. He was drunk. They're just lucky they're not dead.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bobby Pinchik says fellow motorist Charles Azure owes for an accident caused by his reckless driving. Charles claims the accident was Bobby's fault.
All right. Now let's get to your counterclaim, Mr. Azure. I'll hear you.
There was a blonde-haired gentleman. I do not believe that it was him. There was a guy there.
Listen to me. That was him. He
Was
didn't
it?
think. Yeah, it was him.
No, there was a guy that didn't want to wait
Listen
for
to
the
me.
police officer.
Listen to me.
And he took off.
Listen to me. It was him. Let's just get to your counterclaim, sir.
Okay. After this accident, I just had surgery on my knee, and I'm in criminal justice at the Spokane Community College. I have no reason to jeopardize my career. My knee went into the dashboard, and it swelled up my knee. I got the doctor report, and I took it to my instructors at school, and they put me on hold. They ended up giving me a Z grade.
What does that have to do with this accident?
Because my knee swollen, because I got injured in there, and I couldn't pursue my criminal justice. They put me on hold. They said I had to get doctors. I can't get released from the doctors. I've had 4 surgeries on my knee, Your Honor, and...
Did you have any surgeries on your knee after this incident, sir?
No, I had it August 29th, 04.
The last one?
The last one was 10/29/04.
Okay. Well,
Just like 4 months prior to this
Maybe you're in
accident.
the wrong, you're pursuing the wrong career, sir.
I'm not going as a police officer. We're opening a bail bonds company, and we're going to pursue that.
You're going to be a bail bondsman?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. All right, Mr. Azure. Are you going back to school for
They
criminal
let me
justice?
back in. I just had my appointment with the dean on May 5th, and they said I can go back in
I'm
in
very glad.
September.
Okay. Who is this person?
This is my wife, Joni.
What does she have to do with this case?
She's the one that took me to the hospital, saw my knee, how it swelled. I had to be in a neck brace. I had to wear my splint again. I had to use crutches.
Just for my own information, sir, did you speak to an attorney about these injuries?
Yes, I did.
And did the attorney take your case against
No,
Ms.
he didn't.
Pinchuk?
Because he said I had a pre-existing knee injury.
That plus a couple of other things, Mr. Azure. One of the things that would be death to your case is this gentleman right over here. Because he's known as an independent witness. He is absolutely correct when he says that when someone rear-ends someone else in their car, unless there are really extenuating circumstances, it's always your fault. Those are the facts. You understand that, Mr. Azure?
Yes, her insurance...
Unless, Mr. Azure, you have an independent witness who says that you were driving recklessly. That's what he says. And he's got no axe to grind. He took a couple of days off from work. He actually came back to a scene of an accident where most people would just keep
I never
going.
seen him, Your Honor.
Well, maybe you just heard him. And there is no question in my...
We're in front
Listen
of
to me, I'm speaking.
Okay.
There's no question in my mind that he was there. There's no question in my mind that he chose to come back to the scene of the accident because he was concerned that Miss Pinchuk would be blamed for the accident because it was a rear-end hit. He took the time after she contacted him to go down and testify before the administrative law judge at the hearing regarding the ticket. The ticket was dismissed, as is your counterclaim, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of damage to the car, $1,400. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She found that I was at fault, but I just don't feel that I was.
It was his fault. He knows it was his fault, and that's what he gets for trying to lie.
She was totally out of control, calling me every name in the book.
At the point where he realized that I was cussing him out and I was honking my horn, I need to get back over, that's when he got mad.
On her cell phone, driving right behind me, she was so close to my bumper, I could see the whites of her eyes.
Into your home. And after several years, according to you, it wasn't working out because you had met somebody else. Or it wasn't working out and then you met somebody else. I'm not going to get into that because, quite frankly, I don't care. In any event, you left Miss Steyer in the house, even though it was your house, because you agreed to allow her daughter to finish the school year in the house, but you had an agreement. And your agreement was for those months she would pay rent. So far, do I have it down?
Right on.
Right on. That's why they pay me the big bucks. You claim she did not pay you rent as she promised she would for the 4 months that she lived there. And in addition, when you returned to the house, either alone or with your new lady friend, you found she had taken property that belonged to you. You want the rent and the property.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Steyer says there was not an agreement for rent. She took only what she came into the relationship with, and she is counterclaiming. She has a rather unique counterclaim. She says she is entitled to half the equity in your home. She will explain that to me. So how long did the two of you live together in this house, Mr. Lawrence?
Let's see, I bought the house in October of '99. I signed on there.
And did Ms. Steyer and her daughter move in right away?
Yes.
When you purchased the house?
Yes.
How old is the child that you have together?
6.
Boy or a girl?
Girl.
All right. Ms. Steyer, were you working when you moved in?
Yes.
Where were you working?
I was working at a nursing home.
Mr. Lawrence, you and Ms. Steyer were together for a substantial period of time. When did you move out of the house in with your girlfriend?
Early February of this year.
Did you give Ms. Steyer any notice?
When I broke up with her, I told her that we'll try to work as like a roommate type situation, you know, until the school year ends. But that only lasted about a few days. We kept getting into arguments.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's very hard, especially when there's somebody else involved.
Right. So I told her I'd just grab some of my clothes. I'll stay elsewhere. If you pay me $400 a month in rent, I'll pay the other part of the mortgage. And then at the end of the school year, that gives you plenty of time to figure out where you're going to go.
And she moved out in June?
No, well, she was supposed to move out in June, but she moved before school let out and didn't tell me about it.
Okay, so she's supposed to be out in June.
Right.
So we're talking about 4 months.
Correct.
From March until June, how much child support did you pay?
None.
Why not?
Because we hadn't established that. I did tell her if she paid the $400 a month in rent, I was going to give her $250 a month in child support. Since I didn't receive any money for rent, I didn't pay the $250.
Then it's a wash, Mr. Lawrence. You got me?
Yeah.
You paying child support now, Mr. Lawrence?
No, that's my next step. I've already gotten in with child support, told them they need to...
Just 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So is what you're telling me after she moved out at the beginning of June, you paid nothing in child support?
Absolutely nothing, ma'am.
You know that my sympathy level for you is going like this, Mr.
I
Lawrence?
understand. The whole situation is, if I can show you...
Mr. Lawrence.
Sorry.
Like that. Now, what items do you claim, Mr. Lawrence, that Miss Steyer took from your house when she left?
Well, basically the house was just about empty. I mean, all she did leave me was a recliner, a coffee table, lamps, and a few items down in the that were in the closet downstairs.
What had you purchased, sir?
We had purchased together a 62-inch big screen TV.
Just a second, so this is something you purchased together?
Yes, ma'am.
With joint money?
Yeah.
So, what do you want me to do about that?
She did not give me a chance to. We wanted to get together and figure out who's going to take what. I mean, she just took everything.
You don't expect me to do that, do you, sir? Mr. Lawrence, I'm going to explain something to you, sir. You were in what you considered a committed relationship, but not one recognized by the state. The state recognizes marriage, and the state has put in an elaborate system, Mr. Lawrence, for how to separate marital property, how to divide it. The state does not condone living together as a relationship, and the state has not put into existence how you divide property purchased with joint money by two people who are almost married, and they do not provide a system of jurisprudence, that would be me, to sit here and figure out how much each of you contributed to the 62-inch television set, or how much each of you contributed to the sofa and love seat, how much you made, how much she made. The state only does that with marrieds. You chose not to get married, she took the property first. I would say the same thing to her. If you took the property first, the state hasn't put into effect a system where I have to waste my time or Bird's money in a public system to figure out who bought the 62-inch television set. You didn't buy it alone? Comes under the category of too bad.
Does that also include items that she took that didn't even belong to either one of us because it was my grandmother's that left for me?
Well, sir, then what you would have to do is to show me a copy of your grandmother's will.
I have a letter here.
Don't show me a letter.
It's an affidavit from the estate.
I'm going to take a look at an affidavit from the estate that says certain property belongs to you. If she took property that was left to you by your grandmother, she must return it. That's your personal property. You take any property that he got from his grandmother?
The freezer.
The freezer?
Yeah.
You have to return it.
It was given to both of us, though.
No, she only gave it to you because you were with him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He had like 11 jobs while we were together.
After number 7, I would have said, toodaloo, adios, arrivederci.
And later today,
How many children do you have? 4. Where does he fit in?
The second son.
3 out of 4.
Judge Judy. Cody Lawrence says ex-girlfriend Melissa Steyer owes for rent and the return of his belongings. Melissa is countersuing, claiming Cody owes her for half of his home's equity.
Okay, freezer. That's what you get back, Mr. Lawrence, and I suggest you start paying child support, sir, because despite the fact that there's not a child support order, your child still has to eat. Now, you want to explain to me why you think you're entitled to any equity in this house, Miss Steyer?
Because I paid on it just as well as he did.
No, you didn't.
I mean, he had like 11 jobs while we were together for 7 or 8 years.
I would have, at that point, after number 7, I would have said, toodaloo, adios.
Right.
Arrivederci. Instead, what you did is make a baby with him.
Right.
Not Swift. What do you want from me? And if you were together when you moved in 1999, you should have been smart enough to say to him, listen, you're buying this house. I want my name on the title. I'm assuming part of the mortgage responsibility. I'll put my name on the mortgage. Then the house is half yours and half mine. You chose not to do that. You lived there like a tenant. The state doesn't put in a system for almost marrieds, Miss Steyer.
Right.
You got it?
Mm-hmm.
He gets his freezer.
Okay.
Counterclaim is dismissed. That's all. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
My daughter's the number one thing. I talk to her a lot on the phone whenever she lets me.
I hope he starts paying child support.
I'm trying to pay child support out of something that I don't have because she didn't fulfill her end. I'd have fulfilled the $250 if she'd have fulfilled the $400.
I hope he is able to see his daughter and he takes more interest in her and stuff than what he has been.
I got a new life. I want to bring my daughter into this.
All parties in the matter of Ernest versus Kennedy, step forward, please.
Karen Ernest is suing her nephew, 26-year-old Nicholas Kennedy, for a loan to get his Mustang fixed.
Mr. Kennedy, this is your aunt?
Yes.
That's your mother's sister?
Yes.
Parents are dead?
Yes.
Your aunt tells me that you inherited a lot of money.
I inherited a trust fund from my grandmother when she passed away.
You still have the money?
My aunt is in control of my trust fund, yes.
How old are you?
26.
How much money do you get from the trust fund?
It was a total of $50,000.
So how much income do you get from that every year?
I actually do not know, Judge. My aunt is in full control of it. She's the trustee of the trust fund until I'm 35.
Well, there has to be income that's paid out periodically. How much income is paid out to him?
Judge Judy, due to financial issues with Nicholas over the past few years, before the passing of his grandmother, I sat down with her and her attorney, and we came up with an idea that the only way that Nicholas will ever have any money in the future was to set the age limit of 35 for him to get the money.
And the income is reinvested?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, this is what the case is about. I just have to get a little bit of a picture of the family. You don't mind, Miss Ernest, do you?
No, Judge.
Because one gets the sense from reading these papers that you adored him, and he disappointed you. You made him, according to you, a loan to have his car fixed, and he promised he would pay you back.
Yes.
It was a relatively small loan.
Very small.
So I don't think that it's the money necessarily that's the issue.
You're absolutely right. It's the principle.
Right. And he hasn't paid you back.
Not a dime.
When did you take the money from your aunt to fix the car?
It was in the end of July, beginning of August of 2006.
What was wrong with your car?
The rotors, the heat shield, and the calipers were completely shot, as well as the bearings. It basically sounded like it was a bag of tin cans in the back of my car.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm a blackjack dealer at a casino in central New York.
Do you have a gambling problem?
No.
You have a drug problem?
No.
How long have you been a blackjack dealer?
2 years.
You get paid reasonable money?
Roughly $30,000 a year.
You support anyone other than yourself?
I have my daughter to support, yes.
How old is she?
2 years old.
Does she live with you?
No.
How much do you send her for support?
3.
Current?
Yes.
Do they take it out of your pay?
Yes.
Oh, that's why you're current. Good. So how come you were in such dire straits that you needed money from your aunt?
At the time, my wife and I were talking about a separation, and I spoke with my aunt. My aunt has a great deal of dislike for my wife, and she was very happy at the sound of my wife and I separating. At the time, I was...
Did she dislike her because of things that you've told her about your wife?
No.
She just decided that she didn't like her on her own?
Yeah, so I believe something happened way back in the beginning of 2002 when we first got together, and things just kind of escalated from there.
Whose fault was it, without going into the story?
I really don't know. I don't even know all the details myself.
Go ahead. So?
I was in some financial trouble, and...
Why?
I was only working part-time at that point, and I needed some assistance with getting the separation going, and when I spoke to my aunt about the separation, she told me she'd help me in any other way she could possibly help me. And I also
Has she done that before?
Yes, she has.
So she's been supportive of you since you were born?
Correct. And I mentioned to her that I was having car problems, but I didn't have the money to fix my car at that time. She then offered to help me get my car fixed. Not once did she tell me that this was a loan or that I'd have to pay her back, just that she would help me get my car fixed so that I could have it back on the road. It was my only vehicle. My wife had her own vehicle at the time as well.
Now, when did she ask you for the money back, Mr. Kennedy?
Since then, I've only had 1 or 2 conversations with her in 6 months, and about a couple of weeks ago, out of the blue, I got a letter.
When for the first time did she ask you for the money back?
She has not asked me for the money back.
Is that right, Miss Ernest?
Incorrect.
Go ahead.
I made numerous telephone calls to Nicholas, his only cell phone that he had, and he never returned any calls whatsoever.
Tell me about the conversation that you had with him in either July or August.
Initially, I was contacted by Nicholas August 1st, 2006. He says that he has problems with his car. It's the only vehicle he has to get to work, and he can't afford to get it fixed. I told him I want nothing to do with trying to help him anymore because...
Why? Tell me why.
Just so many financial issues in the past. Him and his wife have a bankruptcy already on them, 6 months into the marriage. They just can't rub 2 nickels together. They can't save a dime, and I didn't believe he was going to have any way to pay me back. So it's a lost cause. He begged and pleaded with me that he really needs to have his car fixed. That's the only way he can get to work. During that conversation, he also stated that they were in the process of selling their home and separating, that they were closing the end of August, and he promised, out of the closing of the house, that he would pay me back.
Did you sell your house?
Yes, I did.
When?
It was in the end of August.
How much equity did you have in your house?
We sold just the house, the furniture. We took all the furniture with us, but the house itself sold for $32,000.
That doesn't give me the answer. How much equity did you have in the house? Did you have a mortgage?
No.
So you had $32,000?
Correct.
Where's the money?
We used the money to pay back my wife's car loan, and then the rest of the money we invested into a new apartment for us. Getting new furniture, getting ourselves reset up.
What'd you need new furniture for?
The furniture we had was completely destroyed.
What do you mean it was destroyed? Was there a hurricane?
No, my daughter.
Oh, you mean so it was destroyed by a 2-year-old?
Yeah.
It was destroyed by a 2-year-old. Mr. Kennedy, you sound ridiculous, sir. You sound ridiculous. Does your wife work?
No.
Are you back together again?
No.
When did that change?
Yesterday? We started working on things, and right now it's just kind of a rocky relationship. Right now it's just for my daughter.
So when you bought the new furniture, who moved into this apartment with the new furniture?
We moved in together, and I resided there for 5 days before I moved out.
Something had to happen, Mr. Kennedy. Sing.
I began seeing one of my coworkers.
Oh, so you sold the house. Whose house was it? Yours, or was it the family house?
It was the money from my inheritance from my mother's passing.
Fine. Because I gather from your aunt, which I sort of believe that you can't rub 2 nickels together. So you got a little inheritance. You bought a house. Let me follow this. With the money that you got, you bought a house. You sold the house. You took the $32,000. You paid off your wife's car.
Correct.
How much was that?
$14,000.
Then you bought new furniture because the 2-year-old destroyed the furniture.
Correct.
And you bought new furniture, put it in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Brand new apartment. You spent the rest of the money, $20,000, $18,000, and you bought new furniture, moved into an apartment. that you lived in for 5 days because you started fooling around with a coworker.
Correct.
How much was the car payment?
$649.61. Judge Judy, may I get the correct calculations of his inheritance totals?
Yeah, your aunt says that you got a lot more money than that, Mr. Kennedy. She said it was more like about $150,000 that you blew.
She's correct. That was the original inheritance from my mother.
How long ago?
That was back in 2004.
Mr. Kennedy, you have to grow up, sir. Your aunt is finished with you. So your wife is driving around in a brand new car. You are no longer together. Is that so far correct? Are you now with the coworker?
Yes.
Ah, perfect.
I just want to cry, Judge Judy.
Listen,
I love you.
Some grow up, some don't grow up. You have to know the difference between things you can change and things that you can't. That doesn't mean that you don't love him. That means that if he needs a kidney, you may have to give it to him, but if he needs any money, let him get another job. That's easy, you know? I mean, you may have to give him an organ one day because you love him.
I did tell him no multiple times in the conversation on the phone.
Yeah, he can't, you know. I mean, he can't keep tapping into other people to clean up the mess after him. He's 26 years old. In the scheme of things, in a man's life anyway, that's still very young, you know. If they're going to grow up at all, it usually takes about 50 years. And then it's a downhill slide. But he's got a way to go.
His grandma got smart in holding the trust till he's 35 years old.
Because he'll go through 50,000 like water through a goose. Right? Good.
Yes.
Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $649.61. That's all. Thank you.
The family needs to still stick together no matter what happens. But then again, he shouldn't keep using me as an ATM.
My relationship with my aunt has just gone so far south, and I'd like to repair it at some point.
His ex was simply, obviously, a gold digger.
We just went through it way too fast. We didn't know how to save it. We didn't know how to use it right.
When he's gone, so is she. Isn't that funny?
I just hope we can work on our relationship. And
all parties in the matter. Christopher versus Dixon. Step forward, please.
Charnita Christopher is suing her former friend and child care provider, Vashni Dixon, for her share of money paid to Vashni by the state. Vashni is countersuing for unpaid child care fees.
Miss Christopher, Miss Dixon was a friend of yours.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
it is your claim that at some point she needed some assistance. You needed some assistance with child care, and the state was paying for your child care costs.
Yes,
You engaged Miss Dixon to watch your children with the following arrangement, that she would share those child care responsibilities with your aunt, and then they would split the check. It is your claim that when Miss Dixon got the check, she kept the whole check for herself, and you want half the check so that you can give it to your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Dixon says that there was no aunt, that she watched the children, but that you wanted her to split the county check. You would keep half, and she would keep half, and she felt that that was very unfair since she had the responsibility of watching the children. She has a counterclaim, and her counterclaim is nonsense. Her counterclaim wants you to pay the difference between what the county paid for child care and what she thinks she deserves for child care, the overage, because that's what it says in the contract. That's not the contract you had with her, Miss Dixon.
When she told me, we made the agreement.
Miss Dixon, that wasn't your agreement that she was going to pay you extra.
She was supposed to pay me $4 an hour. The state was supposed to pay that to me. They did not. She didn't tell me that they wouldn't pay all of that. It's her responsibility to pay.
It's not her responsibility.
How is it not her responsibility?
Because I say so. Because that wasn't your contract with her. Now, how many children do you have?
3.
How long have you been receiving child care money from the state for the 3 children?
Approximately a year.
Starting when?
It started again March 27th of 06.
And where were you working in March?
I wasn't working. It was for me to be able to look for employment at that time.
Well, did you find employment?
I found employment July 3rd. I was hired at Glamour Shots.
So you're telling me from March 27th until July 3rd, the state was paying you to look for a job?
Yes.
To watch your children?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she start to babysit for you?
August 7th, 2006.
And where were you working at that time?
I wasn't working.
Well, what happened to the job that you started in July?
Oh,
Glamour Shots. I'm sorry, Glamour Shots.
Are you still working there?
No, ma'am.
When did you stop working there? It's very easy to find out by calling them. When did you stop?
August 15th. I have my check stubs.
All right, so you worked there for a month?
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you leave there?
Because they weren't giving me enough hours.
Well, so you left that job because they weren't giving you enough hours, and you went to the situation where you weren't working at all?
Yes, ma'am. There was a lot of other issues with that job.
So the county wasn't really getting a great bang for their buck by paying for your 3 children for daycare while you're looking for a job, and you had a job for a total of 1 month when you quit because they weren't giving you enough hours. Something doesn't sound right there, Miss Christopher. So she started working August 7th, and now a week later you're not working. So what are you doing when she's watching your children?
Out looking for work.
What does that mean?
I have to go to the workforce center, and they work with me to help me look for work.
Well, how many days a week do you go to the center?
It could be 4, sometimes 5.
Could it be 3?
It depends on what my job counselor...
When did you go to work?
Where did I go to work?
When? First is when?
I haven't. I'm looking for work right now. My children are not in child care right now at all.
So she started to work on August 7th. And when did you stop working?
I left her house on September 4th, I believe.
So you were there for 4 weeks?
Yeah.
How many hours a day did you watch the children, or did you live in her house?
She'd leave around maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and she wouldn't get back till like 8 o'clock at night.
What about this aunt? Do you know anything about an aunt?
I never heard anything about her aunt watching her kids before this.
Where's the aunt?
She's at home.
She's not here?
No.
Well, how do you expect to prove to me that somebody else babysat for your children?
I have the proof.
Show me. What kind of proof are you showing me?
Oh, it's the hours that my aunt kept the children. She typed this up. She has that license.
I don't accept that, Miss Christopher. That's hearsay.
Okay. Well, that's what I have.
Well, your case is dismissed. My dear, she got a check for watching your children. You have no proof that somebody else watched your children. Ridiculous. Case is dismissed, that's all. So is your counterclaim. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Vashni knows that she did not keep my children for those days, and she knows that.
She's a liar, and I don't appreciate liars.
We were friends.
She was like, well, I just quit my job and take half your check. I never agreed to it. That's just what she said.
I helped her.
How she was helping me, I don't know.
I don't believe in friends. I have family, and that's it.
I don't think Charnita knows what the definition of a friendship is.
Nah, I'm done helping people.
I know it's fraud.
Miss Russell, who is your former wife, borrowed some money from you, and then she took some money that you had given her to hold for safekeeping.
Right.
This was after she and her children, because the two of you have 5 children together. You have children from a previous marriage or relationship, and Miss Russell has children from a previous marriage or relationship, 5 in total, none that are your joint children together. Right. And you were divorced, and then after a couple of months decided that it was a mistake to get divorced, so she moved back in with you, and that, again, didn't work out. But it was during this period after the divorce that was your claim that these loans took place. $900 that you claim was a loan, and $3,600 that you claim she actually stole from you.
Well, more or less.
So give me some dates, Mr. Sadler. When were you married?
2001. December of 2001, I believe. I'm sorry, 2002.
And when were you divorced?
October of 2004.
And when did Miss Russell and her children move back in with you?
In December.
And when did she move out?
End of February. February 23rd, I believe.
Okay. Do you have custody of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
Now let's talk about the loan first. The loan was made, according to you, in December of 2004.
Right.
Tell me about the loan.
Basically, she had decided she wanted to go bankrupt so she could be a stay-at-home mother. And so I had her pull $1,500 out of my home equity. And we actually spent $600 of that on bills, and the additional $900 left was supposed to go into savings where I was going to pay an attorney for her to go bankrupt when that time came. But the money never went into savings or checking. She just held on to it, and it went with her when she moved out. And she never did go bankrupt. And she ended up, from what I understand, just using money to catch up her bills.
Miss Russell, when had you accumulated this debt that inspired you to think about bankruptcy?
Most of my debt was acquired when we were married, and then also in some of our separations. But I've always kept my credit up to par. I mean, I had like 16 revolving accounts, no lates, anything. And during the time that we had discussed me going bankrupt for the family, I didn't pay my bills, and then...
Could you look at me?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a simple question that I asked you.
Okay.
When did you accumulate the debt which inspired you to think about bankruptcy?
Over time, between 2001 through 2004.
Credit cards?
Yes, ma'am.
16 credit cards?
Well, I don't have 16 credit cards. I have 16 revolving accounts. I watch my credit like a hawk.
What do you mean 16 revolving accounts? You have lines of credit at banks?
Well, I don't owe any money to a bank per se unless it's through like Target Visa or Wachovia Visa.
So then why were you contemplating bankruptcy?
When Stephen and I were together, I did spend majority of the time as a homemaker, and then I would, go to school, and I did have odds and end jobs. Stephen works on commission, and this past year it dropped significantly, and we had discussed from talking to neighbors and things like that maybe I should go bankrupt and it's not so hard, and with the idea that Steve and I would be together forever, I didn't have to worry about having my name on a mortgage or having my name on another car loan, that he would take care of that, and then it would relieve some financial burden for us.
How much in debt were you?
We weren't going to go bankrupt on my car because my mom is actually a co-signer, or actually she's the primary for me on that, and we were going to substantiate.
How much in debt are you?
I don't know. I didn't add it up. I didn't go that far. I owe like maybe $8,000 on my Target Visa, $6,000 on my Wachovia Visa, $2,500 maybe to Rooms to Go, I know Sam's Club, Home Depot. I think I owe them like $2,000.
What do you do for a living?
I am a student. I moved home with my mom and wait tables and things like that.
Your children live with you?
Yes, they do.
You get child support for your children?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
I get $125 a week.
When was the last time you held a full-time job?
I'm not really good with dates.
Are you very good with jobs, is the question, Miss Russell.
I'm sorry, what?
You have 2 children?
Yes.
I have 2 children.
Well, that's a full-time job, but I don't really necessarily
How old are your
get paid
children?
for that. I have a 13-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Do you have a 13-year-old takes care of himself?
Himself.
Himself?
2 sons.
5-year-old's in daycare?
Actually, he's in pre-K.
Now we talk about a full-time job. That's
and
what happens
he's
when
actually
you...
a very difficult child, not that you want to hear it. Because he has issues, and he sees a psychologist and psychiatrist and otitis media and all those wonderful things.
You still have to work, Miss Russell.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, there are alternatives to stiffing a whole bunch of people who extended you
I know,
credit.
that's why I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to do it.
Okay, good. Now, let's get to the $900. So far, Mr. Sadler, I haven't heard anything about a loan. I heard that you put $900 away, ostensibly for a bankruptcy lawyer.
Right.
And now I hear, Mr. Sadler, that there was discussion between you and your wife.
Right.
Although you were divorced, you were living together as a family again, about the viability of her going bankrupt to relieve the family of all of these bills so that there would sort of be a fresh start. You wouldn't have to be spending your money on that.
Well, it was
right?
more because she didn't want to work full time.
Listen to me, sir. Were there discussions between the two of you, since you are now together as a family, that this was a viable option to relieve the family of these...
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So she was going to stiff the other creditors, but the one creditor that she couldn't stiff was her mother, because her mother's the co-signer on the car. You see how you get things at... Just let people talk, and then it all comes together.
And later today...
I ran over there and tried to fish the fish out of the tank with a net and put them into fresh water, hoping that I could save their lives. They were kind of floundering around, but I mean, there was still some sort of life in them.
And they all died?
Yes, ma'am.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Steve Sadler says ex-wife Anna Russell owes for an unpaid loan to retain a bankruptcy attorney. Steve also claims Anna stole money from him.
Oh, so now you can tell me the story about Mr. Sadler, the $3,600 that you claim Miss Russell stole from you.
Okay, basically I got a lump sum of child support from my first wife. And with her going bankrupt, I had agreed that we would use the money, basically like an investment in our family, to pay down on her car, because she was going to keep her car, and that would lower that payment. but the money never got used, and our relationship just kind of went downhill. And basically, I told her, I wanted to put the money in savings account because I wasn't sure where, our relationship was going, and I wasn't going to pay it towards her car if we were going to break up.
Is that what you said to her? At the time you gave her, according to you, the $3,600, you said, I'm not putting it in a checking account. I'm giving it to you to pay off your car. But if we break up, I want you to give me back the money.
Well, that never came out, but, she understood that because she
Don't tell me what she understood.
Well,
this is a court, Mr. Sadler.
It was like this. She had even made a statement to me that, we would discuss it if we decided she was going to use the money for something else other than what we had talked about.
You talked about just paying down the car or paying down the credit cards?
Well, first it was the credit cards, and then she decided to go bankrupt, and then it was, since she was going to still have her car, just use it towards her car.
So she was going to stiff the other creditors, but the one creditor that she couldn't stiff was her mother, because her mother's a co-signer on the car. You see how you get things, just let people talk and then it all comes together. Good thing that they strengthened the bankruptcy laws in this country. Financial planning is not bankruptcy. People sort of think that financial planning is another term for bankruptcy. Okay. How much did you earn last year, sir?
Last year I earned roughly $45,000.
And how much do you get in child support for your 3 children?
I get, for 3 children, I get $50 a week. For 3.
What does your former wife do?
I think she works at a daycare at a gym. But she kind of goes in and out of jobs.
That's the reason you have the custody of your children.
Well, there were other reasons, but okay.
Okay. Does she see her children?
Not anymore. She's actually talking about getting for the summer because she lives in another state.
Well, if she gets them for the summer, sir, if you agree to that, you tell her that you'll give her $50 a week for the 3 children.
Actually, I'm not going to
see how that flies.
I wasn't going to give her anything.
Right. Now, the $3,600 he gave you, under what circumstances?
I think Stephen felt guilty because when we would break up, he would also spend money too. And he was taking out a line of credit towards the house. And even though we were a family unit, the money was only going to go towards his bills, but not help me with mine. And I think that he felt guilty, and that he said if he ever did get the money from Misha, which is the back child support, and I did raise the children for that time, that I could have it, because he considered it like free money. I can even remember when I was even at home with him, and my mom was on the phone, and he was saying if he did get the money, that I could have it. And I was like, Mom, you need to write down this date, because we didn't really know, because we have an up and down relationship. And
I got it, Miss Russell.
Okay. But he did give me the money, and I didn't steal it.
What did you do with it?
I paid it towards my bills. And just to let you know, I didn't just want to go bankrupt. It was, he was even saying, you need to go bankrupt before these laws come into effect. It's going to be harder.
Well, whatever.
But I do
in any event, Mr. Sadler, I don't hear anything about a loan, sir. I don't hear anything about a loan for the $900. And I read your complaint very carefully, which I don't buy. I'm going to tell you why I don't buy it. Your complaint, which you swore to, says, she wanted to file bankruptcy and asked for my help, so I agreed to loan her $900 to retain an attorney. Well, that's not true. That's even not what you testified to today, right? So that's false. Then you say, in January, I received $3,600 in back child support from my first wife. I cashed the check. I was afraid if I put the money directly into my checking account, I would spend it. So I gave the entire sum to Anna to put aside for us.
Right.
Now listen to me. In the previous paragraph of your complaint, you say she wanted to file for bankruptcy because she had spent money that she shouldn't have. And then you went on to tell me I agreed to loan her the $900, and then she went on a spending spree and spent approximately $5,000 on her credit card because she knew she was going to file a bankruptcy, so she might as well work up the credit cards, right? Now, a month later, as irresponsible as that is, right? So you would say this is irresponsible, right?
Right.
She was going to file bankruptcy, which means she didn't have money. So she said, I'm going to go out and jack up my credit cards, probably buying things, Christmas presents and things like that, month of December, right, sir?
Well,
but according to you, she did that, and that was financially irresponsible. So the next month you get the $3,600, and since you didn't trust yourself by putting it in your checking account, you gave it to Miss Responsibility to hold for us.
Steve Sadler says ex-wife Anna Russell owes for an unpaid loan to retain a bankruptcy attorney. Steve also claims Anna stole money from him.
I don't buy it, Mr. Sadler. I don't buy the $900 loan to your former wife, and I don't buy the fact that you gave her this money to hold for us. I believe that you gave her this money to pay down her credit card debt, and she owes you absolutely nothing. Zippo, nada, goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's about getting back what I felt like should have been returned to me in the event our family fell apart.
He actually had me served with papers trying to have me arrested, saying that I stole the money.
We've broke up, God, probably 16 times in the last 4 years, and I'm not about to say it's the last time.
I'm currently reading the book, He's Just Not That Into You, and if I had to give my own words of it, I would have to say, he's just not that into you if he sues you and tries to have you...
Frank Villardo out of jail, and he won't pay her back. Frank says he made it clear that he would never pay her back.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 147 on the calendar in the matter of Villardo versus Villardo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
Mrs. Villardo, this is your stepson.
Yes.
And I assume this is your husband.
Yes.
How long have you been married?
8 years. 8 years.
Why are you laughing? Was it
Because
that good?
It's... I'm like, I always thought he was going to be the one to forget. No, it was me.
Okay. According to your complaint, your stepson, this gentleman here, was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
You posted a substantial part of his bail money, $2,200.
Mm-hmm.
And he won't give it back to you.
Correct.
So, let's turn to you. You were arrested.
For a traffic ticket.
For a ticket.
2 tickets.
Totaling how much money?
One was not a traffic ticket.
Don't interrupt.
What I'm trying to understand is, did you want to know how much the bail was? Or did you want to know how much the tickets were for when I went and appeared?
What I want to know, sir, is this. If you're arrested for 2 traffic tickets, you don't get bail of, in this case, I think it was $2,800.
Because they were extremely old is why.
How old were the 2 traffic tickets?
One was a year and a half, and one was almost 3 years, 2.5 years.
And traffic tickets, you mean for parking in the wrong place?
Speeding.
So it was moving violation?
They were moving violations, yes. And they were both dismissed later by the judge because they were already paid.
So you were bailed out. Bail is to ensure your appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Once you appear, bail is usually exonerated and you get the bail money back, unless the fines are so tremendous that the fines somehow eat up the bail money. So are you certain that what you're telling me is 100% accurate, that what you were arrested for were 2 traffic tickets on which the judge set $28,000 bail?
I believe, yeah, one was 15 and one was 13. And I don't believe that the money is given back for bail. When I went and appeared on the tickets, there was a small fine given for one, which I've paid in Van Nuys, and the other ticket was dismissed in Pomona because I had already paid it. I don't think the tickets are really the issue as much as the fact that I was being railroaded into paying money I didn't ask for.
Just a second. What was he arrested for?
Okay, one was a traffic ticket in Pomona for driving on a suspended license and no insurance at the time. And the one in Van Nuys was Division 3. It is the criminal division. It was for switching price tags at an electronics store in the Valley.
That doesn't sound familiar to you?
It was a misdemeanor. It wasn't criminal.
Wasn't a traffic ticket either.
A felony or a misdemeanor are both considered crimes, sir. A felony is just a more serious crime. A misdemeanor is a less serious crime. Now, this switching price tags, was that the crime for which you were actually arrested?
Yes, yes, it was.
And it was after you were arrested on that this outstanding warrant fell on you?
Yes.
Okay. Now it sounds more logical. Now, Mr. Villardo, you were in fact arrested. According to you, you were taken into custody and you were entitled to a phone call. You made a phone call to your wife's mother, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Who wasn't home.
Right.
And you were pretty panicked because you didn't want to spend any time in jail.
Right.
Who was the next call you made?
To my stepmother.
And what did you say to your stepmother?
I asked her, because I didn't know how many phone calls I was going to be able to make, to continue to call my mother-in-law so she could take care of the situation.
When you mean take care of the situation, you mean get the money and get the bail?
Exactly.
So you were confident that your mother-in-law would come up with the now $2,200 in bail money?
Yes.
But she didn't get through to your mother-in-law?
She did not come home till late that night, till well after I was released.
Okay. So it was owing to your stepmother that you actually got out of jail?
It is owing to her? Yes. Did I ask for it? No.
You didn't say, I'm going to stay in jail, did you?
I wasn't going to stay in jail. I knew as soon as my mother-in-law was home or my wife was off work, it could have been handled quickly. I mean, I was in Malibu jail.
Just a second. Now, your excuse is paying her this money back, that you told her that there was no way you could pay the money back.
Correct.
That's not true. It's not true.
And I assume that you would have told your mother-in-law the same thing.
Right.
So why don't you get the money from your mother-in-law and give it back to your stepmother?
I shouldn't be put in this situation. I never asked for it.
I shouldn't.
And then I was railroaded, and I was threatened to have my legs broken by my own father.
Just a second.
I was threatened to have my legs broken by my own father.
Miss Villardo. Miss Villardo. Miss Villardo.
All right, and that's the God's
Miss
honest
Villardo.
truth.
I'm listening. This is still a court, so put your hands down and be quiet till it's your turn. Okay. Good.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm assuming that everything he says is true. That his mother-in-law thinks he's such a prize package that she would have put up the $2,200 so that her daughter would be a happy camper and she would have Prince Charming home.
And later today,
He bounced up on the hood of your car and smashed your windshield.
That's right.
And then you slid off.
That's correct.
You're lucky you're not dead.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Hairstylist Adria Villardo says she bailed her stepson, 27-year-old computer artist Frank Villardo, out of jail, and he won't pay her back. Frank says he made it clear that he would never pay her back.
How old are you?
27.
You get arrested, you get put in jail. If you don't want somebody to bail you out, you don't have the money to, then you sit in jail until your court case comes up. That's
right.
what you do.
That's right.
You chose not to do that. You chose to get on the phone and start calling around and asking around for your mother-in-law to bail you out. When you couldn't get a hold of your mother-in-law, you called your stepmother. You told your stepmother, keep trying to call my mother-in-law, assuming that that's true. I'm taking everything that he says is true.
Well, that was both of our mistakes.
I'm assuming that everything he says is true. Some of it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
I'm assuming that everything he says is true. That his mother-in-law thinks he's such a prize package that she would have put up the $2,200 so that her daughter, Nicole, that's your wife, would be a happy camper and she would have Prince Charming home.
Yeah.
Right? You owe her $2,200. Pay it. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
I didn't ask for it. I never asked her to bail me out. I never asked for money. My father's lost his son and grandchildren and everything over this, all due to a stepmother who I dislike very much.
He's my son, and I'm just embarrassed that this whole situation happened. I wish it didn't, but he has to learn that you just can't borrow money from everybody and not pay it back. That's the bottom line.
And now the next case.
Parties on Rotar, Kinch versus Settle. Step forward, please.
19-year-old Lori Rotar says 46-year-old manager Paul Settle smashed her windshield when her car hit him as he was crossing the street. Lori wants Paul to pay for the windshield.
Who was driving?
I was.
You are the owner of the car?
That's correct.
Were you in the car when this happened?
No.
Why don't you have a seat? You're driving along.
Mm-hmm.
He hits your car, but he's walking. Right?
Well, we collide together.
Well, he hit your car.
Well, yeah.
But he was a pedestrian.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hit her car, you smashed her windshield.
That's correct.
You want him to pay for the windshield.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me how this happened?
Okay. I was coming from a friend's house, and I was just driving, and I didn't notice anybody was walking or anything. You know, there was, you know, nobody in the crosswalk or not. You know, I'm coming up to the stoplight, you know, and then he must have been like swerving in and out of cars. And as soon as I seen him, I mean, I completely stepped on the brakes as much as I could. You know, I thought maybe he would have seen me coming from a distance, like, oh, you know, there's a car coming, you know, let me move out the way, you know, or something like that.
So?
And then I just proceeded to go straight. And
No. You didn't go straight after you hit him.
Well, no.
You were traveling along.
Yes.
The two left lanes
Yes.
were clogged with traffic.
That's right.
And you were in one of those left lanes to
The middle
start
one.
with, right?
The middle one, yes.
So you decided, since you weren't making the left turn and the right-hand lane was clear, you went into the right lane.
That's right.
And were tooling along. All of a sudden, he steps out of nowhere. You didn't see him.
Correct.
And your car hit him.
Correct.
Now, when your car hit him, he came up on the front hood of the car, right?
Yeah, right.
So you must have hit it pretty hard.
Well, I mean, not really, because I mean, I was going like, I'm driving like at least 20, 25. Driving.
You're lucky you're not dead.
I agree.
You're lucky you're standing here.
Yep.
No.
But he bounced up on the hood of your car.
That's correct.
And smashed your windshield.
That's correct.
How much did it cost you to have fixed?
$332.10.
So, you hit him, or he hit you?
Well, we both...
You hit each other?
That's correct.
And you stopped immediately, I assume?
Yes.
Did you fall off the hood of the car, sir?
I stayed on the hood for several minutes, just sort of assessing myself, trying to feel if there were any broken bones.
Am I alive?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay. And then you slid off.
I slid off, went over to the curb. There were some good Samaritans there, some witnesses. They took care of me, sat me down on the curb, and we waited for the police.
Did you have any injuries?
After the fact, I went to my internal medicine person, and I was complaining at that time of back injuries, soreness, and so on.
You were
aches
sore
and
all
pains.
over.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've been going to a chiropractor, and so I had a back sprain, strain, and a subluxation, dislocation of the vertebrae.
And you thank God every day that you're
Every
here
day,
that
absolutely.
you're here to complain about a little soreness.
You bet.
Now, you, sir, were jaywalking.
Yes, sir, ma'am. That's exactly right.
And according to you, you were, in fact, weaving in and out of cars.
That's correct. They were stationary.
So you decided to cross. You were in the middle of the street?
We were between two intersections. They were waiting for a stoplight. There were two lanes of traffic, and they were both lanes were stationary. The third lane was wide open, and I checked before I stepped into that third lane, looked both right and left, and there were no cars in that lane when I stepped into that intersection. And that's where I met Miss Roeder.
Okay.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
A seemingly intelligent, mature person who's weaving in and out of cars.
I had forgotten my wallet, and I was meeting some friends at a local pub.
You mean they were proofing you for age?
Yes, I said, thanks very much.
I would go there all the time.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Lori Rotar wants Paul Settle to pay for her broken windshield after she hit him with her car.
The problem is, Ms. Rotar, when you're behind a car, you have to be a totally defensive driver.
That's right.
You got to anticipate everything. You got to anticipate
right.
children running out to get a ball.
That's right.
An animal running across the street.
That's right.
And a seemingly intelligent, mature person who's weaving in and out of cars, trying to get to the other side. By the way, were you trying to get to the other side for a really vital, important appointment?
I had forgotten my wallet, and I was meeting some friends at a local pub, and I went to the door. They said, you need some identification. I was flattered. I said, you need identification from me?
You mean they were proofing you for age?
Yes, I said, thanks very much.
I would go there all the time.
That's right, that's right. So I basically was going back to my car to pick up the wallet. That was the situation.
Okay, so it wasn't an emergency?
No, no.
Okay. Well, it seems to me that but for your act, the windshield wouldn't have been broken. But for the fact that when you're driving a car, you're really almost totally responsible for what happens, you would have an intact windshield. So it seems to me you both should share the cost of this windshield.
One point that I have is, and maybe you'd like a copy of this, my cost for chiropractic care so far is $592.76. And we're really just in the middle of this situation. Now, I had been willing to chalk this up as bad luck on my part. When Miss Kinch called me on April 9th, I assumed that her insurance company would take care of the cracked windshield, and I was just going to say, well, I'm lucky that I'm alive, and call it even Steven. I figured each party was going to suffer some damages, and I was willing to pay for my own. But at this point, my damages are double what Ms. Roeder...
Let me take a look at your bills, sir. And none of these bills are covered by insurance?
They are covered by insurance. We're negotiating right now. It's supposed to be my auto insurance is covering these, supposedly. We're negotiating.
They should. Well, they should.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have them, so that you don't have any out-of-pocket expenses.
That's right. But again, it's the principle.
Wait, we're not here for principle.
Okay.
Right now, we're here for dollars and cents.
Right.
And right now, you don't have any out-of-pocket expenses because your insurance is going to cover it. Now, what about your insurance? Does your insurance cover the glass on your car?
I don't know that because it's my grandmother's car. I was just borrowing it.
I just stepped on it.
Yes.
You're Mrs. Kinch.
Yes.
You lent your granddaughter your car.
That's right.
Never had an accident before?
No.
First.
Right.
And has been responsible with it.
Very responsible. Otherwise, I never would allow it.
Do you have insurance that covers the
Yes,
glass
I
damage?
do.
You
yes,
do?
I do. And the deductible is $250. And the amount that we're asking for, like Laurie stated, was $332. But may I make a...
Well, just a minute. How much was the replacement glass for the window?
The actual glass replacement, I went to the most economical provider I could find. And that was $288.10.
Well, where does the $332 come from?
Well, it's the filing fees and for transportation because the car could not be driven because of the broken windshield.
Well, I'm going to consider the actual out-of-pocket expense that you had, which is $288.10.
Okay.
And you have a deductible of $250, right?
Yes.
So your actual out-of-pocket expense is just $250.
Right. May I say that on Thursday, May 28th, Mr. Suttle's insurance adjuster called me and was willing to settle a claim for half the amount.
Half what amount?
Of the windshield, the cost. Well, the cost of my claim, actually, the total amount of the claim, which was $332.10.
That's an offer of settlement. You should have taken it.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now, if your total out-of-pocket expenses are, in fact, $250, because that's the cost of your deductible, and all of your medical bills are being covered, correct? You don't have, at this point, a counterclaim. You are always free to file a claim if it's within a certain time frame.
That's what I understand.
Right. And you didn't sue her.
I did not.
Okay. $250 is the claim. I believe that each of you are at least partially responsible for what happened. You understand that if you're driving a car, you are almost per se responsible for anything that you hit, anything that breathes that you hit.
Yes.
And it's great that you have a terrific driving record. He was wrong. You know, kids run out between cars, but adults shouldn't. That's why we have jaywalking laws.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't breaking the law. You were.
I admit I was jaywalking.
So it's going to cost you $125. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy, Bob Clauser fired her before her contract was finished. The Clausers say they were justified firing her. She was belligerent to their children.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please.
Yeah, it's case number 227 on the calendar in the matter of Mixture versus Clauser. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
How do you pronounce your last name? Miksha?
Miksha.
You were hired by the defendants to take care of their 2 little boys
Yes, I was.
as a nanny.
Mm-hmm.
That was in August of this year. You worked for them for 3 days and they fired you.
4.
4 days and they fired you. You want to be compensated because you say they breached a contract that they had with you.
Yes.
How did you find this job?
It was through a nanny agency.
Had you worked for the agency before?
Not through the agency, but I did have a job at the time when I went for the interview as a nanny.
Why did you leave that job?
Unsanitary conditions.
How long had you been working at that job?
For about 2 or 3 weeks.
So for a short time. Before that, who did you work for?
I worked for a cosmetic company.
So you really had no experience as a nanny?
Not an in-home nanny, but as a preschool teacher. I worked for a year as a preschool teacher overseas and an international preschool.
You put an ad through this agency. You
Correct.
applied to this agency. You paid them a fee, I assume.
We did not pay the fee because the fee had not been paid by the time that we had fired, and she did not charge us for the fee.
Did you ask for references?
Yes, I have her application that have references and her work experience and.
So you knew she had no experience as a nanny?
We knew that she had experience in a preschool that was in Egypt.
That you never checked on?
We never checked on, no.
That's not smart.
No.
How old are your children?
Casey is actually a girl, 5, and Trey is 2.
Why did you let her go?
I came home the first night, actually her first day with the kids by herself, because I had spent 1 day with her, with the children. And they did not hear me come in because they were upstairs in the bathroom with the door shut. She was running the shower to give the kids a bath. They didn't know that I had come in, and even though I was saying hello, hello, walked up to the top of the stairs, and as I got to the top of the stairs, I could hear her angrily talking to the kids, knock it off, get over here right now, your mother is going to be home in just a minute, knock it off. It wasn't so much what she said, it was the tone and the anger in her voice. So I sat and listened to it for a couple of minutes. And finally, when I had knocked on the door, there was utter surprise that I was there, of course. And then she came out smiling and telling me what a wonderful day they had had. In the back of my mind, I thought, if this is a wonderful day, what's going to happen on a bad day?
Okay.
I know dealing with 2 children that there are bad days. The reason she got fired was because I didn't feel that her ability was there to handle ongoing stressful situations.
No. Okay. Did you pay her for the week?
I paid her for the week.
Is that right?
Yes, she did, but that's not true at all, Your Honor. I worked with 25 kids around the same age in Egypt for 1 year, and I never had complaints. Never, not one time. I'm very, very patient, and when she came home that day, I do admit I had a different tone in my voice, but this is the way I was trained, and I have always worked with kids this way, where I use a different tone so that they understand that I'm saying no, but I never, ever was angry or yelled or knock it off. I never said that.
You don't have to establish to me that you used the tone, you didn't use the tone. In her mind, in her ears, she wasn't happy with your tone.
I understand that, but you know, when we did go out to the garage to talk about it, I apologized to her only because, like you said, she's the mother of these 2 kids. She knows what she likes to have said to her kids, how she likes it said. She didn't give me a chance, maybe, to try again.
She doesn't have to do that.
Your Honor, she knew that I had this job. I had told her the first day that I had a job already. And when she told me about the contract, that she always signs contracts with nannies to protect herself as well as the nanny.
Well, let me see the contract that you say you have.
I also have a piece of paper from the agency that claims that she was not working 3 to 4 months prior to her coming to our job.
Well, let me see what you have.
I told you before that...
Let me see what you have. What date were you interviewed by these people?
I believe it was July 28th.
Okay, and you were told to start the very next week, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So when did you quit your previous job?
I had already given her notice. I had already discussed with...
You gave her notice when?
I gave her notice after the nanny agency called me and told me that she has a few interviews for me, including Jamie's.
Okay. So before you were hired by her, you quit your job.
No.
That's what you just told me. I said, when did you give her notice? You just said to me, before, when I got a call from the nanny agency. Just a second, madam. Just make sure. I mean, I'm still lucid at my age. You just said to me, you gave notice to your job when you got a call from the agency, and the agency told you they had set up a couple of interviews for you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, if I
Just
could
a second. So you quit your job and gave notice before she hired you. That's what you just told me.
No, I didn't mean to say that. I had already given notice to them. What I had told Lily, the woman I was working for before, is that I told her that I'm looking for another job. I will stay with you until I find another job. I had told her this 1 week before I met Jamie and went on the interview. I told her I could leave at any time. I told her this.
For somebody who's very careful about their children, you hired somebody who's a pretty fast talker. I think that it's fine that you gave her a week's salary. I certainly think that if you wanted to be more reasonable and you were smarter, you would have given her 2 weeks' salary and said, look, I'm going to pay you for this week, and I'm even going to pay you for next week. So it'll give you an opportunity to go back to the agency. How much were you paid each week?
With the minimum?
Yes.
$187.50.
Is that right?
That's with the minimum.
You know, I mean, we do it by hours, so I don't know what the exact amount is. 25 hours minimum at $750.
$750.
You're suing for $3,700 and some odd dollars.
Yes.
And you don't have a prayer, madam. Not a prayer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do I look as if I need help from you? Just a second. Do I look like I need help from you?
And later today,
She took a whole evening to come to my home with 2 police officers and a video camera. They searched my home, saying I stole her cat, I stole her dog. I mean, this went on and on and on.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nanny Samantha Mikshie wants Jamie and Bob Clauser to pay her salary, claiming she was wrongly fired.
I don't find that this agreement is anything more than a job description.
That was our interpretation when we wrote it. We wrote a work agreement, not a contract.
No, she told me contract.
And we guaranteed her that was a bad choice of words. The correct word would have been we assured her a certain number of hours each week.
That's what
because we work a different. She worked a different number of hours.
Do I look as if I need help from you? Just a second. Do I look like I need help from you? No. Weren't you listening to what I said, sir? What I said was I don't view this as a contract which guarantees her pay from now until the end of the year. What I view it as is a job description, which in effect guarantees her when she's working for you the minimum number of hours to ensure that she doesn't have to double up on jobs, which would give her, if she worked for you, 25 hours a week minimum. What I did say, if you were listening, was you fired her. And you fired her really for tone, because you weren't happy with the way she was handling a situation. Quite frankly, based upon what I'm hearing today, it was probably a very good choice that you made. However, in all fairness, she didn't do anything outrageous to your children, right?
Right.
So you should have given her a week's salary so that she could have at least spent the next week looking for another job. I do believe she gave notice to her job before. I mean, after all, she left them on a Friday and came to work for you on a Monday. That's not giving them a hell of a lot of notice. Not terribly responsible. I don't believe her story for a second. In any event, I think you should have given her another week's salary to give her an opportunity to find something else. So I'm going to give her $187.50. Nowhere near $3,700 that you want. This is not a guarantee, what they call in the television industry pay or play, right? Even if you don't work, you get paid. That's quite a trick. Even I don't get that. $187 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bottom line, my kids are safe, and I feel I made the right decision in the beginning.
We'll look a little deeper next time.
And now the next case.
Parties on Zeldin versus McInerney. Step forward, please.
33-year-old special ed instructor Robin Zeldin claims her former roommate, 40-year-old nurse Joan McInerney, abused her by bringing her to court too many times. She's suing for abuse of process.
You two ladies had been roommates from 1996 to 1997, according to the papers that I read.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that live-in situation terminated acrimoniously, I gather, because there have been a series of lawsuits for return of security deposit, to damage to the property, all in small claims court, and all of those cases have at this juncture been resolved.
Correct.
So the only thing that is outstanding now is a lawsuit that you filed against her for abuse of process, which is abusing the court system and you.
Yes, Your Honor.
By bringing you to court in a frivolous manner on multiple occasions.
Yes.
That's the only thing that I'm considering. Okay. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
How many lawsuits did she file against you?
She filed, first was a restraining order that she did not show up in court for. I did. It was dismissed.
When was that?
That was in January of 1998. And
do you have the papers on that?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Then she filed in...
Just a minute. Let me take a look. You filed this action for a restraining order against her, is that right?
Yes, I did.
And then you didn't show up in court?
I didn't know I was supposed to show up. They just said if you file a restraining order, it was just to keep her away from me and stop her from threatening me. She constantly threatening me on the telephone.
Just a second. You filed this proceeding, and then on the day that it was scheduled to be heard, you didn't appear.
I didn't know I was supposed to appear for a temporary restraining order.
What did you think happened to a temporary restraining order?
That they were just going to serve her to stay away from me and stop threatening me. That's what I was told.
No, nobody told you that. All right. Anyway, so she filed this one, filed in December of 1997.
Correct.
Is the next action she filed against you?
In May 25th, 1998, in small claims court.
And you didn't appear on the return date?
I had major surgery April the 1st. Recuperating time was 6 months. I sent the judge everything.
Just a second. Hold it. You had major surgery in April?
April 1st.
And you were given a return date?
Yes.
What was that date?
I don't recall what the date was. I was recuperating at the time.
I have it June 24th, 1998.
All right. So 2.5 months after you were recuperating, you didn't appear in court, and you requested a continuance.
That's right.
How do you support yourself?
I'm a nurse.
When did you return to work?
After my surgery, approximately 6 weeks.
Uh-huh. So while you had your surgery on the 1st of April, you returned to work in mid-June.
Yes.
So you returned to work prior to the return date on this case?
Yes, I was able to work
Just a second. You were able to work?
Yes.
Now, what reason did you give the judge for requesting a continuance?
I still had a cast on my leg. I worked with a cast on my leg.
Well, if you worked with a cast on your leg, listen to me. If you worked with a cast on your leg, you can get to court with a cast on your leg.
Your Honor, the reason I didn't go to court many times is because my life was threatened by her. I don't know how many times when I was living with her.
I'm not interested in living with her.
And I was afraid of her.
No, listen to me. If you were afraid of her, madam, then you wouldn't have filed these lawsuits against her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I acted in a very cowardly manner. I was afraid of her.
Your actions don't say that. Your actions say, I'm going to give it to her, as my grandfather would say.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 33-year-old special ed instructor Robin Zeldin claims her former roommate, 40-year-old nurse Joan McInery, abused her by bringing her to court too many times.
What I want to know is, you went back to work in June, well before you were scheduled to appear in court, and then you wrote to the court and you said to the court that you had just had major surgery and you were recuperating.
Yes.
That's what you told them.
Yes.
You didn't tell them you went back to work.
Part-time. I
don't care whether you went back to work part-time or full-time. Going to court is not a full-time job. It takes one evening. All right. So then you were given an adjourn date because you wrote requesting an adjourn date. And what was the return date that you were then given?
I don't recall because I kept getting phone calls from her. So
I'm not interested in the phone calls.
I don't recall. I do not recall.
What was the adjourn date?
Well, I won the judgment on June 24th.
And then I got a vacated judgment order on September 15th that she refiled again. And I once again appeared in court, and she was not there. So her judgment was dismissed.
Why not?
Just afraid of her. And I know that sounds silly, but you don't know the story that's behind this. I have to have a chance to explain why.
No. Listen, you tell me that you're afraid of her. To me, if you're afraid of somebody, then you don't create situations like coming to court where you both have to be together over a couple of dollars. Your original suit was just for a few $100s.
That's right.
I mean, if you were actually afraid of her, what you would have said was, I want to drop the whole thing. I don't want to see her. I don't want to be in the same room with her. Nothing. But instead, it appears to me that on now 4 occasions, you have filed actions requiring her to appear, and you've not appeared.
Because if she won, if I won, I was afraid what she would do to me if I won. Because she told me what she would do on many occasions.
So why didn't you?
So I let it go.
Your Honor,
Just a minute. You didn't let it go. If you let it go, you wouldn't have written and requested a continuance.
Your Honor,
Jump. You're winning. Be quiet.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, I acted in a very cowardly manner. I was afraid of her.
Just a second. Didn't you think it was going to be frustrating every time you had a court date? If you didn't show up because, as you said, you were afraid of her, and she went to court because you never notified her you weren't going to court. If she went to court, don't you think that would make her just a tad angry?
A little bit, yes.
Well, if you really didn't want to exacerbate the situation and make her more angry with you, you wouldn't have done anything to make her even more frustrated because she took a morning, an afternoon, an evening to go to court.
Your Honor, you know, she took a whole evening to come to my home with 2 police officers and a video camera. They searched my home, saying I stole her cat, I stole her dog. I mean, this went on and on and on.
No, let me tell you something. The more you're talking to me, the more it's coming crystal clear to me that this course of conduct was designed to frustrate her. And that belies the fact that you tell me that you were afraid of her. Because if you're afraid of somebody, what you try to do is you try to stay as far away from them as possible. That's if you're normal. Now, you may have had good reason to feel frightened by her. You may have. I'm not getting into that, because quite frankly, I'm not interested. But your actions don't say that. Your actions say, I'm going to give it to her, as my grandfather would say.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I'm not satisfied with your answers because, quite frankly, not only am I frustrated for her, but I'm frustrated for courts who have to sit and listen to this and have people who are waiting to have their cases heard, and they can't have their cases heard because the judge has to sit and listen to a case, and then it's the judgment is set aside because they get a letter from you that you had surgery and you couldn't come to court, which is really untrue. Because you were at work? Because you were at work at the time that you said you couldn't come to court? Baloney. Look, how many hours did you spend in court?
Well, I had to take a day off of work. I work in Monterey Park, so...
On each of those 4 occasions?
Correct.
What's a day's pay?
About $150 a day. I have a pay stub.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. Don't abuse the courts to settle disputes. Don't abuse the courts. Use the courts, but don't abuse them, madam.
That's all. Thank you, Your Honor. You may step out. I'll back up to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She never gave me cash.
Love with the wrong personal trainer.
Wouldn't you think that someone had an infatuation for me?
Looking at you standing there, not a chance in hell.
Judge Judy Justice.
To everybody out there, be careful who you rent to because they might lie.
She never let me explain the horror that I lived with this woman and what she put me through when she brought her lover in to live with her. They stole from me, they trashed my room, they took my parking space, and I would not begin to tell you what they did to my dog. It's ludicrous.
She was not allowed to have a dog in the house that we rented. I was not around when the dog was around. I never touched her, pushed her, assaulted her. She's just a scary woman, and she needs to be stopped.
Her former roommate, Agent Linda Levy, for taking over a lease of her Mercedes and not paying for it.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 300 on the calendar in the matter of Luder versus Levy. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
According to these papers, you two had an acquaintance, co-workers or something. Is that right?
Correct.
And there came a time when you were interested in purchasing a new car. You had a 1992 Mercedes that was on a lease.
Correct.
And the defendant, according to your papers, wanted to take over the lease on your car.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct. I tried to.
And she filled out all the papers to take over your lease?
Yes.
But her papers were rejected because she had bad credit.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
But she took the car anyway. You drove it.
Right.
And you had what I consider, reading through all this stuff, a private agreement that you would pay the monthly lease on the car.
Right.
Until such time as you fixed up your credit or could buy it. Is that right?
That's right.
So far correct?
Correct.
And how long did you have the car?
From October to July 10th.
And you paid the lease on the car, but according to you, the lease payments were made late.
Yes, they were.
So what did you do?
Well, if I may back up a little bit, I was not aware initially that Ms. Levy had a tax lien on her credit, which would prevent her from obtaining a lease.
But you were aware of that when you gave her the car?
No, I was not aware of that.
Give me a time frame. October is when this arrangement was made, but then you were notified at some point that you couldn't take over the lease because she had bad credit. What month was that?
On October 6th, there was an application sent by Ms. Levy to Mercedes-Benz asking to assume the lease.
Okay, when were you notified that that was denied?
Within a week or 10 days.
So then you had options at that time?
Yes, we had another option.
And what was the other option?
We went to El Dorado Bank, and I was willing to co-sign for her to purchase the car. That was also denied.
So still, you had an option.
Exactly.
Ms. Slaughter. Your option was to say, I'm sorry, give me back my car. I have to find somebody who can actually take over this lease or purchase it, right?
Yes.
Of course. You opted to let her use the car as long as she would pay the lease.
On time.
On time, but it was within a relatively short window that you knew that she could not take over the lease.
Correct.
And that you were taking a risk, that these other people were not prepared to take a risk with her, right?
Correct.
You took the risk.
I took the risk.
But the payments, according to you, were made late. So then there came a time in July when you told her, when you had a conversation with her and told her to either clear it up, lease the car, buy the car, or, according to you, return it.
Exactly. I no longer trusted her, and my credit was at risk. She disappeared, and I knew from her daughter that she may be moving back east, and I didn't want to take the risk of having my car disappear across the states.
Okay, that's reasonable, but you gave her the option.
Yes, I gave her the option.
You gave her the option. You gave her the option to either assume the lease, purchase the car, or return it to me, according to your statement.
Right.
So she returned it to you?
Eventually, yes.
Okay, she returned it on the 10th of July.
Correct.
Had she paid June?
Yes.
Okay. You're suing her for $5,000.
Correct.
For what?
I have copies of all the damages here, spelled out exactly. And initially, as I purchased my new car, I had the option at that point of trading in the Mercedes, and I would have been rid of the problem. Linda insisted on having the car. She says, I need it for real estate. It shows better than a Toyota, and it gives me a better image. And again, because she's a friend and I trusted her, I let her pursue it. So now I'm out. The lease payment for July was not made, although she initially indicated it was.
Well, the lease payment for July, she absolutely owes you. And how much is the lease payment for July?
$375.86.
Okay. What else? What were the damages on the car that were not ordinary wear and tear?
That were not ordinary wear and tear? There were none.
None?
No.
Okay. So that's July's payment you owe her. Do you understand that?
I don't believe that I should, because she did not give me any options. She said, you moved out, I don't trust you anymore, I want my car back, and that was it.
Listen, she had no longer a mechanism for getting in touch with you easily.
We worked in the same office, Your Honor.
Were you moving? Were you in the process of moving?
No. No, I moved out from her house after she lit into me about my personal life. And then I just moved. And then when she came home, I was gone. And then she was mad because I left. She wanted money. She's a total gold digger. She wanted money.
Well, listen, I don't think she's a total gold digger. I'm going to get to the rent in a second. In any event, you returned the car July 10th. So you drove it for 10 days in July, making it relatively impossible for her to get somebody else to purchase this car for July. She sort of stuck with it. So you're going to pay $375.86. That was her car payment for July. Part of your problem is once you knew that she had bad credit, bad enough credit so that nobody would allow her to either assume the lease or to purchase the car, you should have said, I want the car back. I'm going to take care of it myself. Then you have to deal with it. Let's get to the rent. You were good enough friends when you had to move out of your home and rent it because you didn't have money. You asked if you could live with her for a month.
She told me to come and live with her, and then every month she gave me bills on phone, utilities, watering for watering her lawn, everything, and most of the time there was like 5 people in the house. And
she allowed you to come to live in her house?
Sleep in her dog's room with 3 dogs, which was fine. I was happy to do that. I did everything I could for her to help her with her business and everything.
Listen.
And she just totally just used me. She couldn't sell the car. That's why she wanted me to take the lease over.
Listen, nobody twisted your arm to take the car, right?
Well, she did. She wanted to buy another car, Your Honor. Oh. And I was right there to just take over all the bills. I paid everything on the car, everything. And she knew that I couldn't get the loan.
Are you serious with me? Are you telling me that you were forced to take this car?
No.
All right. And she didn't force you, go and drag you from your house and say, you have to come and live with me? I don't care if you slept with 3 dogs, 2 parakeets, and a partridge. She gave you a place to stay when you were forced because of financial reasons to rent your house in order to survive.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was buying clothes and jewelry, obtaining a cell phone, going out for dinners.
So then you said either pay me or leave.
And later today,
you found the rollerblade that he left outside.
Yeah.
And what did you do with it?
I put it in the trash.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carla Luder says her former roommate, Linda Levy, took over the lease of her Mercedes, then couldn't pay for it. She says Linda also owes her for living with her. Linda says she wasn't renting a place from her, she was renting the Mercedes.
All right, let's hear, Ms. Lauder. Did you discuss rent?
Initially, when she needed a place to stay, I offered, because she had nowhere to go. She has no family out here. Said, we're welcome to come in and stay for a month until you find adequate rental for yourself. When I came back from vacation and she had not found adequate housing, she said, you know, I'm really stuck. I don't have a place. I want to thank you for giving me a roof over my head. I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I said, well, I think it's only fair that you pay a third of the utilities. I have a tenant downstairs, a single lady, who pays a third. And I asked Linda to pay a third. She agreed to that. And I said, when you have the $200, pay it to me as a rent, when you can afford it. So now she came to money because she was buying clothes and jewelry, obtaining a cell phone, going out for dinners. Then I confronted her and I said, wait a minute, if you could do all this, you can afford to pay me $200 a month. Well, next week she moved out without a word, no forwarding address, no note, no nothing.
Okay. So, Ms. Lauder,
Your Honor, I did leave a note, and I left a $200 check, and I have some of the things that I paid, receipts that I paid.
You left a $200 check for what?
Just for any phone bills for the last month or utilities that I may have owed her. I felt
Did she leave you $200 check?
Yeah, it was a post-dated $200 check, which I applied to all of this already.
Okay. All right, let's take care of the rent part. Did you say that you would take care of the third of the utilities? I assume that you did because you were taking care of the third of the utilities. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to the rent, it seems to me like you were a nice lady. So I'm going to give you some advice. You don't say to somebody, pay me $200 rent when you can afford it. Because then what you're asking a court to do is to decide whether she can in fact afford to pay you $200. And no court in this land, if they have other things to do, are going to sit down, go over her bills, her expenses, whatever else she had, and say, well, she really could afford $200, maybe she could afford $150. Nobody's going to do that, which is why that's not the way people rent rooms or rent apartments. So this was not a contract. This was a contract for something that may or may not happen, i.e., when you can afford it. Do you understand? But I find that there was actually an agreement to pay 1/3 of the utilities. Now, How much were the utilities for the month she lived there?
What's still owing is $210.53.
And that's giving her credit for the $200 that she left you.
No, I applied that towards the rent.
No, strike rent.
Strike rent.
Yes. So she doesn't owe you
pay to
anything.
be nice, does it?
What?
I said it doesn't pay to be nice.
No, it pays if you're supposed to be nice. People are supposed to be nice, but you're also supposed to be smart.
I know. Well,
and it seems like you're a smart lady, but you can't say to somebody, pay me rent when you can afford it. There'll be some people who say, I can never afford it.
She kept telling me she had no money, but then she could go out and buy clothes and jewelry and a cell phone and go out for dinners all the time.
So then you got angry because you say, well, you say you can't afford to pay rent, but you can afford to do other things, therefore,
pay me.
Go, either pay me or leave.
That's what I did. I didn't tell her to leave, but I asked her to pay me.
You said pay me, so she decided to leave.
Right.
You look like a very nice, smart lady. You made a mistake.
Yes.
But you can't always be compensated for mistakes. Courts don't compensate you for mistakes. It was an error in judgment. Once you were told she had bad credit, you shouldn't have given her the car. And once you saw that she was staying beyond the month, you should have said to her, you have to pay rent, starting the first of the month. Do something. Anybody can pay $200 in rent, especially when you're paying $300 and some odd for a car.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
So judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount of $375.86. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's such a control freak that she just had to always get in my face about my life and me, and she just liked to control everybody and have them do everything for her. Just want to use people.
It was unfortunate that things had to turn out between Linda and I the way they did. She was a good friend and a co-worker, and I just feel sorry for her.
And now the next case.
Parties on Henderson versus Heredia. Step forward, please.
Joseph and Gina Henderson say Leonard Heredia's 9-year-old son, Zoran, threw the Henderson sons' expensive rollerblades in the trash. They want a new pair.
You're Junior.
Yes.
What's your first name?
Derwin.
Derwin, step up here. Who is Zoran's?
Zoran, over there.
You're next to your dad. Okay. You folks are neighbors.
Yes. Yes.
You were rollerblading,
Yes.
but only on one rollerblade.
Yes.
You took off the other one and just left it, right?
Yes.
Not very responsible. And you left it outside overnight.
Yes, I did.
Why were you just rollerblading on one rollerblade?
I just thought it was fun, and I just have one rollerblade, and I push with my other foot.
Okay. Now we come to you. You found the rollerblade that he left outside.
Yes.
And what did you do with it?
I put it in the trash.
Why?
I don't know.
Is this your dad?
Yes.
It says here that he's very protective of you. Is that right, sir?
Yes, I am.
I'm not going to hurt him.
Yeah, I know. I love him.
I mean, he's cute. But I'm going to find out why he put it in the trash. You don't mind that, do you?
No.
So you put it in the trash. Did you tell anybody you put it in the trash?
No.
Did you know who it belonged to?
Yes.
You not like him?
I like him.
So what'd you put his rollerblade in the trash for? Just being mischievous, naughty? Right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your second argument is that you shouldn't pay $140 because he only threw away half the rollerblades.
Yes. Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joseph and Gina Henderson say Leonard Heredia's 9-year-old son, Zoran, threw the Henderson sons' expensive rollerblades in the trash. They want a new pair.
Did your dad ask you whether or not you put the skate in the garbage?
Yes.
What'd you tell him?
Yes.
Perfect. So, your problem is that you say that they were old rollerblades and you don't want to pay the cost of new ones. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't expect them to go out and buy old rollerblades, do you?
No, no.
Did you buy these rollerblades new?
Yes, we did.
When?
We bought him for his last birthday. It was July
7th.
July 7th of last year.
And how much were they?
$140.
So your second argument is that you shouldn't pay $140 because you only threw away half the rollerblades.
Yes, yes. That's...
You know what I mean?
Oh, I understand.
Now, how old are you?
9.
You do any chores around the house?
Yes.
What kind of chores do you do?
Cat box, the silverware.
Cat box. You take care of the cat box?
Yeah.
That's a pretty nasty job. Seems to me maybe he's going to want to keep you on cat box duty for an extra year. You have brothers and sisters?
Brother.
How old is your brother?
8.
Well, maybe when he's 9, he'll get the cat box to take care of. I haven't asked you anything. Is there anything that you want to tell me?
Well, I do want to mention one thing. While we're here, I tried working out our problems between the two kids. Right now, Junior's not allowed to play with Zoran, and I think that had a lot to do with the...
Who said so?
I did.
Why?
When we first moved into the building, for the first couple of years, they played together, and, you know, I thought they played like kids, and they played happily as kids. But a couple of times there was confrontations, and Junior and Zoran were out there, and Mr. Rutherfield, like, he has to come out there and, you know, handle childhood play. And a couple of times he knocked Junior down to the ground. And that's why I don't...
The father did?
Yeah, the father.
You can't do that, sir.
I understand.
You can't come to his defense all the time, sir. You've got to step back as a parent. Evidently, he's done some wrong things, right?
Yes.
This clearly was a wrong thing. And I have a feeling, based upon the statements that I read, that he's done a couple of other little things that aren't right in the complex where you live. Is that right? You know? Like, give me an example of what you've done in the complex that wasn't right.
Fight with him.
Why do you fight with him?
I don't know.
Is he a nice boy? Did he ever do anything to hurt you?
No.
Do you have any other problems in school?
No.
Just with him? Or with some other people, too?
Some other kids.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Well, it's just too bad that two young boys who live in the same complex can't play together. And if they can't play together because you interfere, sir,
yes, ma'am,
that's a big mistake. Is this the younger brother? Get ready for cat box duty. In any event, this lawsuit is relatively easy. You paid $140 for the skates. I'm sure you have a bill for me.
Yes, I do.
Can I just see it for a moment? Always impresses me when people keep these receipts. Really. People are so organized. All right, $140.71. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Step out. I'll back up to you right now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Boyfriend over here's got all of his jewelry in the car. I don't want to leave it on the freeway.
But leave it they did, and now blame her uncle because the car broke down. Judge Judy Justice.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, it's case number 358 on the calendar in the matter of Truman versus Sally. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Truman, according to your complaint, you met and became involved with the defendant. You rented her a room in your home.
I rented her a house.
And she didn't pay rent.
That's correct.
You then lent her a car, and she damaged the car, and she didn't pay to repair it.
That's correct.
And then you took her gambling with you and gave her money to gamble, and she didn't pay you back.
That's correct. She was already gambling.
But you went together
Right.
because you did lend her the money. according to you, when you were both gambling together. Right?
That's correct.
All right, so she was a renter who didn't pay rent. She borrowed your car, trashed it, didn't fix it. You took her gambling. She lost money. You gave her money for gambling. She never paid you back. When did you wake up and say, this is not a good thing?
About toward the, maybe about the middle of August. That was after she had already told me about maybe her 25th lie and the different excuses on how she was going to pay me back. And after hearing it over and over again, I got tired of it.
How long did she live in your house?
About 4 months.
And in the 4 months period that she lived there, how many times did she pay rent?
She didn't pay rent at all.
And how much was she supposed to pay in rent?
$450.
A month?
Yes.
So after the first month that she lived there, sir, why didn't you boot her out?
I kind of felt sorry for her because actually we kind of developed a friendship. And she had told me at the beginning of May that she couldn't pay the security deposit or the month of May because of the fact that she had her money lost.
She lost her money?
She said she lost the money at work or something. So I told her that.
Well, what about the second month?
As far as the second month is concerned, I began to know her a little bit more, and she began to make up more and more different stories on kind of problem that she was having. She was telling me at that time that basically is that her workplace was withholding all of her paychecks and things like that, not paying her at work.
What kind of work was she doing?
She was working as a waitress in Hollywood or something.
Go ahead.
So I told her that, even on top of that, though, you should be able to pay, your rent from your tip, because she was telling me that she was making at least $1,000 a week.
Okay, so there's month 2. Now, month 3, sir. She didn't pay anything.
She basically told me at that time that she had a large trust account up north.
Trust?
Right. And that she was going to go up north, and that she was going to go ahead and get the money and bring it back.
And that's when you lent her your car?
No, I lent her the car in May.
So right away you lent her the car?
Yes.
And you lent her the car, and the car died according to your papers, and it had to be towed back to where you lived?
That's correct.
What was wrong with the car?
The transmission was completely damaged.
Well, is it her fault that the transmission went?
Basically, that the transmission, the seal of the transmission broke. But that wasn't the cause of damage. That she had continued to drive the car for several miles after that on a bad transmission, basically, even though all the warning lights and everything else was flashing on the car. She just continued to drive it for a long period of time until it eventually just broke the whole drivetrain and smashed the front wheels, too.
And now let's talk about the gambling. How much money did you give her to gamble, and under what circumstances?
About $1,000 over a period of 4 months.
Why?
Basically, she was already involved in gambling. She was playing what's known as Asian games in the California card rooms. And I frequent card clubs also. And I just didn't feel that was a good game to play. It's a very high-risk game. As far as any kind of gambling, as far as I'm concerned, is risky.
Any kind of gambling is risky, especially when you don't have money to pay your rent.
Yeah, that's true. And but
what do you do for a living?
I'm an entertainment consultant for the casinos.
So you're a businessman?
Yes.
Mr. Schumann, you're a businessman. Here's somebody who couldn't afford to pay you rent, she says. Where does she get money to play?
She seemed to have money all the time.
Well, if she seemed to have money all the time, why didn't you say to her, I want my rent?
That's what I had told her before.
But you continued to go gambling with her.
She would go ahead and take the money and eventually just tell me that, okay, well, after I picked up some money from my work and I'm going to bring it home and I'll pay you. And then when I come back home, she would be off to the casino somewhere, and then she would tell me the money I was going to pay you, I had lost it playing cards.
So that was very bad judgment on her part, right?
Yes.
Then you gave her more money, $1,000 over 4 months. Why would you give her more money?
Because at that time, when I started to teach her how to play poker, because she was playing in the Asian game herself. So I taught her how to play poker, and she began to win. And she was almost winning every time she was going there. But instead of paying me the money and paying me back when she borrowed the money, she would take the money and give them to her friends.
All right, so Mr. Schumann,
So you take her the first time and you show her how to play poker after she's lost money playing Asian games. So you teach her how to play poker and you see that she's winning. She's not giving you the money that she owes you from money that you had given her for gambling. She's not paying your rent. She's not paying for the repairs on the car. And you continue to give her money for gambling, according to you. Right?
That's correct. But over the period of 4 months' time, she had made at least 8 or 9, I don't know, maybe even 10 trips up north saying how she was going to bring the money back. So every time she would disappear for 3 or 4 days and say that she was going to sell her furniture and her second she had another apartment, she was going to go ahead and get a security deposit back and bring back that security deposit. I find out later she never even had a second apartment. She told me she was going to go up north and then sell her car to her brother because her brother wanted her car. Find out later that she had already sold the car to her brother a long time ago.
You know what it sounds like to me, sir? You were hoping for something more than friendship. That's what it sounds like to me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What are you doing going gambling if you don't have money to pay rent? What are you laughing at? Try to keep it together.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Entertainment consultant Robert Schumann claims part-time waitress Mally Pond Sally owes him for gambling, rent, and a broken-down car.
All right, Miss Sally, let me hear your side of the story. Did you pay rent?
No.
Why?
Because he didn't tell me to pay. First, he told me to move in. He's going to help me go through.
What?
Because, because he didn't tell me to pay. He told me to move in there in the house, and he wanted me to stay in his master bedroom, and he's going to stay downstairs where the other room is open. And then I didn't want to stay in his master bedroom, so I said I'd rather stay downstairs.
And you're telling me there was no agreement as far as rent? Is not an answer. Miss Sally, did you agree to pay him at some point rent of $450 a month?
No.
How much did you agree to pay him?
I said wait until I'm working, and I could afford to pay him rent. And he says okay. Because when I moved in there, I have about $900, and they stole the money.
Who stole the money?
There's other people that lives in there, rent a room from him. And I can't, I don't know.
Just a second. So you're working all this time that you're living there as a waitress?
I pay him some back. So when I have
How much did you pay him back?
I don't remember. Sometimes I give him $100, $50 when I make my tips, and I give him some of the stuff back. And then when I didn't really play Asian what he was saying that game. I just go with my friend, but my friend's a gambler, so I never played. And then he teach me how to play Hold'em, because he said I could make a living playing Hold'em instead of working.
What are you doing going gambling if you don't have money to pay rent? According to you, you said to him, I'll pay you rent as soon as I get more money from my work.
No, I didn't say.
That's what you just said to me. Okay. You said there was not an agreement to give him $450 a month rent. But I told him I would pay him rent as soon as I started making money. That's what you just told me, right?
I didn't say that, but it's just, if I have the money, I would help him pay the rent. But he
No, Miss Sally, that's what you just told me. What are you laughing at? Try to keep it together. So if you don't have the money to pay rent, where do you come off? Going to a gambling place?
My friend goes there. That's the only person I know in LA. I just moved from Sacramento, so she gambled. I just go with her, but then I didn't gamble.
You took money from him to gamble?
He's the one that banked me up. I said, when I lost my tip money, $50, I said,
why were you playing with your tip money? Here you go. You promised this man, according to you. Let's say I don't believe him that you said you were going to give him $450 a month. Let's say I believe you. I'm going to give you money, Mr. Schumann, as soon as I, start gathering up some money again because my money was stolen.
It was.
So you gather up $50, and instead of giving it to him, you went and gambled with it. Let's talk about the car.
Okay.
You borrowed his car.
I told him I was going to get a rent-a-car. My friend was going to give me a rent-a-car, but he said he loaned me the car to take it home. So I drove home. I don't know what happened. I made it in the middle of L.A. and Sacramento. The transmission just blew up 6 in the morning. The water just come out. I don't know, and I pulled over. And then I called the towing truck, and then I towed back here. I went home first with my mom and asked my mom to get the money.
That's not important. Did you drive the car after you saw the lights on in the car?
No. I went, and the water come out, just pulled over on the side, and I called a towing truck.
Did you ever tell him you would pay him for the car?
That time he didn't get mad or nothing, and I didn't say I was going to pay, because he said that time wasn't the money thing. He doesn't care about the money.
Did he ever make any advances towards you socially?
What that question means?
Did he ever come on to you?
I know before I moved in there, I know he told me he said he's in love with me. But I told him that I just came up from a relationship because I came to Sacramento away from my ex-fiance, and I don't want to deal with nothing with it. I don't have no feeling for him or no, other guys.
When did you tell him that?
I told him that before I moved in the house.
Did she tell you that, sir?
Yes, but I had never told her that I loved her or anything like that.
Yes, she did.
Well, what did you tell her? You told her that you liked her?
I thought she was a nice person.
No, I mean, did you say to her you would like to have a relationship with her, and she said, no, I'm not?
I never said anything like that. She said something like that.
What did she say?
She told me that she thought I was one of the nicest guys that she ever met, and that she was having a hard time with her estranged boyfriend in Sacramento. That's one of the reasons why she had to get away from him and to move down to here. And, just that she said not too often that she meets someone like me.
Did you think she liked you?
So I felt that it was more coming from her than from me.
Did you like her?
I would say yes, but I never made any kind of advances toward her.
But you liked her?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
All that kind of damage would never happen if someone had just stopped the car right there.
Maybe she was in a place where it wasn't good to stop, sir. If I'm in a car and a car's lights are going off and I'm on a parkway and it's not convenient to stop because there's nothing else around there, I'll drive it until it dies.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Robert Schumann wants Malipon Sally to pay him rent, car repairs, and a gambling debt. Sally says he became too possessive.
Okay, ready to rule.
Ready to rule.
There are 3 things you're suing for, sir. You're suing for rent, you're suing for your car, and you're suing for the money that you loaned her to gamble.
Could I say one thing, Your Honor?
Sure.
I have a rental agreement here that was signed by her back in April. I have a promissory note that she had already made out.
When did she sign this?
But the beginning of September, after I filed a suit against her because I told her I was going to garnish her wages, I was going to do whatever it takes me to
Did
get my
you
money
sign
back.
this promissory note?
What's a promissory note?
You don't know what this is?
He gave me some papers. I just signed it. I don't know what that was for.
When did he give it to you?
Last week.
Tell me the circumstances
witness.
surrounding which you gave her this paper, sir, and when you gave it to her.
I gave it to her about the beginning of September.
Where did you give it to her? In your house?
I gave it to her at the casino after I had already thrown her out. I threw her out toward the end of August. Then I informed her at the time that I was going to sue her to get my money back.
Yes.
And then that's when she thought that I was going to tell her family that she was gambling all her money away down here in Southern California. So she went ahead and signed that promissory note.
Well, what would make her think that you were going to tell her family that she was gambling all of her money away?
Because she knew I was very upset about it. She knew that at that time I was being also seen by a doctor at the same time.
What kind of
Because I was
doctor?
almost having a nervous breakdown over this.
You having a nervous breakdown over what?
Over all of this.
Over what, sir?
All the money that she owed me.
She doesn't owe you that much money, sir. Let me tell you something.
I don't have a lot of money.
Mr. Schumann, listen to me carefully, sir. You lend somebody your car, and if the transmission goes on the car, that's not necessarily their fault. Transmission can go on a car when anybody drives a car. It could have been you behind the wheel of a car or anybody else. As far as the money that you gave her when she was gambling, you got to chalk that up to your stupidity, because somebody who doesn't pay you rent, who doesn't pay you, according to you, what you think is owed for repairing your car, you don't go and give them money to gamble, because that's just dumb. I do believe, however, based upon what, not only what you told me, but what she pretty much tells me, is that she had an agreement to pay you rent. You say that there was an agreement to pay you rent of $450 a month. She says, when she's not backtracking and covering herself, well, I told him that I would pay him when I had money from my work, but clearly she had money from her work because she was gambling, and if she was gambling, she had extra money because she wasn't paying rent, which she should have been paying. Does that make sense to you, Bert?
Clear.
If I have a test, I have a receipt here from the mechanic that set the damages to that car. It said all that kind of damage would never happen if someone had just stopped the car right there and not drive it 5, 6, 7, 8 miles.
Maybe she was in a place where it wasn't good to stop, sir. If I'm in a car and a car's lights are going off and I'm on a parkway and it's not convenient to stop because there's nothing else around there, I'll drive it until it dies. It's not her fault that the transmission went.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Miss Sally, you lived there 4 months?
Yes.
You paid no rent. Everybody pays rent. You owe him $1,800 in rent. Do you understand? How much did you pay him?
I used to pay him sometimes $100, $200, $300.
Show me proof.
He's the one who has the proof.
Did she pay you any money, sir?
She didn't pay me anything.
Of course she didn't. You want to know why she didn't? Because she lies. Miss Sally, you're not always going to be able to get away with your good looks. You're not always going to be able to get away with getting over on people. And I think you've been doing that probably a long time. Now, he is clearly not very socially adept, if you know what that means. Not too swift when it comes to the social stuff. He couldn't figure out that after 2 months he was being taken. Waited 4 months to figure out that he was being taken, and you finally moved out. You moved out owing him money for rent. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the rent only in the amount of $1,800. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Back door to your right.
And on the next Judge Judy.
She made so many excuses. Every time I tried to ask her to pay me back, 10, 15 times, she'll come up with a different excuse and not follow through.
I think he likes me. I cannot fall in love with someone, you know what I mean? Not because of the money.
I don't know, I just stupid.
You may be seated.
All right. This is an action for breach of contract, as I understand it. Miss Ireland, do you say that you signed a contract with the defendant's company to appear in 6 videos or 6 movies? Excuse me. To appear in 6 videos over a 6-month period, and you did not appear in those videos. You want to be fully compensated for that
That is
contract.
correct, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
For the most part, yes. That was a minimum of 6 videos that I signed for. I signed an exclusive contract with Sin City Entertainment, which kept me from making movies with any other company. And when I received no compensation for being exclusive with this company, and they put me in no movies of any kind, let alone the minimum 6 required for the contract, I have been forced to take this kind of proceedings.
May I see the contract, please?
Yes.
prepared this contract?
Mickey Blank's.
Is that you, sir?
Yes, it is.
Yes, I'm sorry. His secretary, I believe.
Is this your standard contract?
No.
Why not?
Well,
The reason I'm asking you this, well, your name is Blanks?
Blank, B-L-A-N-K, Blank.
Mr. Blank?
Yes.
The reason I'm asking you that question is, this is the most inartfully drafted contract that I've ever read. Now, so why wasn't she given your standard contract?
Okay, we don't have a standard contract. What that instrument is an agreement between an artist and our company.
Well, an agreement is a contract.
You can use the word contract, yes.
Of course.
Okay. We don't feel it's a formal contract as such. What this does, it benefits both the artist and our company by pulling our efforts together.
Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to point out that there was 2 other girls that were put under contract at the same time as I, and they have identical contracts to these.
This doesn't say it's an exclusive contract.
In the first line where I've highlighted, I believe it does say it's an exclusive contract between Sin City and myself.
Well, but that word is unclear. I mean, that is an unclear, I don't know what an exclusive legal and binding agreement.
It binds me from being able to work for any other companies. So for basically for that 6-month minimum period, I was not allowed to do any work for other companies.
No.
What was your understanding?
At no point did we ever stop Kylie from working with anybody. My understanding of this agreement, okay, is as such. Sin City is a very top-of-the-line company in the adult entertainment field. We put out roughly 6 to 8 features a month. And the purpose of this contract was twofold. It benefited us and it benefited Kylie as well.
Why didn't you use her services?
What transpired, and if I give you a little bit more background on the situation, Kylie is an adult entertainer. She's one of the top entertainers in the industry, and she does very, very well. I'm sure the lion's share of her income is not generated by making adult videos. I'm sure that's through dance tours and all the other type of work that she does.
Is that true?
To an extent, yes, Your Honor, that is true. The reason he's going to tell you next that I went out on tour, and the reason that I went out on a dance tour is because they had no plans of using me in any movies and were not giving me my contracted money per month as they should have been. So I was forced to go out on tour to dance to make some income.
Well, they don't guarantee you to pay $1,000 a month.
They guaranteed that they would put me in one movie, which would contain at least a minimum of one scene, which would pay me a minimum of $1,000 per month.
But they could, for instance, have given you 4 movies in 1 month. Would that
And then they would have had to pay me more.
This is a very poorly written contract. Do you have a lawyer?
Yes, I do.
Did your lawyer read over this contract?
Yes, he did.
Before you signed it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes, he did.
And advised you to sign it?
He said that it was a legal and binding agreement, being not very official looking or not, it still bound me to exclusive contract work with this company, and that I should honor it if I was going to choose to enter into it.
Anyway, I'm going to let you finish, and then I'm going to come back to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, basically, what I'm trying to bring out is our industry is very unique to itself. Okay, Kylie I'm sure, makes the lion's share of her income, not through making videos, but through her touring and her fan clubs and all the other type of work that she does. What the video does is keep her out in front of the public, okay, and working for Sin City, which is a very prestigious company. It adds that much more credibility to who she is and what she does. Kylie is at the top of the industry and dealing with a top company. At the time, it created a bunch of hoopla. She benefited greatly from the publicity. Right when she signed, we had a very large party honoring one of our movies, and we invited everyone from all over the world, all the press and everyone. And even though the party was honoring this movie, Kylie and some of the other girls who were under contract with us, were under this agreement with us, benefited greatly by it. Her picture was all over the magazines in this country.
So why didn't you use her?
What happened was, roughly about a month after the contract was signed, we had a trade show. And at that point, our company took a change of direction, and they put a new person in charge of production. And he's no longer there, by the way, but he was going off in a different step. We would have liked to use Kylie, but Kylie had obligations to dance and what have you.
Just a minute. About a month afterwards, you had a change of direction. What does that mean? Explain that to me.
We had a change of personnel. We hired a fellow named Ed Powers, who's very big in this industry, to do our productions. And Ed was going to take the company in basically a little bit different direction. Okay. However,
why you keep saying that? What kind of different direction?
Well, we were at the time we were doing a lot of features that were meant for Playboy and Spice Channel. Ed wanted to do stuff that was more reality-based type features, but we still would have utilized Kylie if the conditions were correct. Kylie was.
What conditions?
If she was available, if it was there to be had. When I say if it was there to be had, I don't know if we lost communication for a period of a couple months, and it's not our job to hunt people down if they don't communicate. You know, if they're not there on us.
Well, do you have a phone number for her?
Yes.
Did you call her and say you have to come back? We have a film for you to do?
Not personally, no.
Did anybody that affiliated with you that you know of contact
I'm
her
not
within the
aware of
first
that.
month, second month, third month?
I'm sure there was some correspondence, but I'm not aware. I couldn't give you specific dates.
Did you have any correspondence with them a month afterwards, 2 months afterwards, 3 months afterwards?
I called Mickey. I called several other people at Sin City Entertainment, trying to see when we were going to shoot a movie, when we were going to do some more projects together. I was anxious. Like Mickey had said, we'd done a lot of promotion. We had been pushing the fact that we were now working together, Sin City and Kylie, Ireland, and we were going to make big projects, and we'd done all this hoopla, and nothing was coming out of it.
Later on Judge Judy.
Adult film stars are not complete and total bimbos, that a lot of us do treat this very professionally and that it is a business, and although we may be having a lot of fun doing it, take us seriously.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Adult movie star Kylie Ireland claims producer Mickey Blank and his production company reneged on the deal to star her in 6 movies.
I kept calling and calling. Mickey is trying to say that he had a hard time reaching me. That is physically impossible because I carry on my person all the time a 800 paging system. So Sin City can call me toll free. It reaches anywhere in the United States, and it can get me at any time of the day. He also had my current home phone numbers as well as my cell phone numbers, so I was totally reachable. And one other thing I did do, and I still do this for my current company, I'm signed with a different company right now, VCA Pictures, is I make a schedule and I fax it to my employers each month, which lets them know when I'm scheduled to be dancing at this place or doing this bookstore signing.
Did you fax that to their company?
I have faxed copies of it to Mickey Blank, to Gigi Appleton, and to Mark.
We received one calendar that I'm aware of, and you were booked for the entire month.
I always send them in groups of 3 to 4, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, I was only aware, and I was there at the time. I only received one for 1 month, and you were booked for
How
the
many
month.
times did you have feature films during this 6-month agreement that you wanted to use her in?
Well, good question. Right after that time, I was changed to a different position.
So the answer is you don't know?
The answer is I don't know.
Well, she says that you only, according to her, contacted her once. And that was towards the end of the 6-month period. So she's giving you that. Now, why didn't you do that film?
Because they gave me 1 day's notice, Your Honor.
Do you know about that, sir?
Yes, I didn't know it was 1 day's notice, but I do know that there was some correspondence, and Kylie expressed that she was upset with the situation. So we kind of said, well, we have work for you. Would you like to do this?
Tomorrow.
I don't think it was 1 day.
In the contract, Your Honor, it states that I'm supposed to be offered first choice of the pick of the best of the movies, and they never called me, and I feel that them calling me 1 day before the project was to be shot is not only very unprofessional, even in the adult industry, but it was, well, shocking for one, but I think I was a replacement more than given the first choice.
Let me ask you this, sir. What I'm hearing is that shortly after you signed the plaintiff to this agreement, and it is loosely written, it is a contract, and it says you're going to use her 6 months with an option really for another 6 months. You'll come back after 6 months, but for that 6-month period, she was supposed to work 6 films.
Right.
And I gather from what you're telling me, shortly after you signed this contract with her, your company hired and then took on a different direction from being films that were made for like Playboy Channel. You were going into reality. Do you know what that? I'm not going to go into that.
Right. Well, reality-based.
This is a family court.
Right.
Reality.
Right.
And then that person, for what is no longer with your company. Is that right?
That's correct.
So that for that 6-month period, am I to assume that Sin City Productions was sort of in a state of flux?
Not exactly. When I say we took a different course, we still made features. We still had films we were putting out each month that we could have possibly utilized Kylie in.
Well, then why didn't you?
What transpired was we lost the communication.
Well, but you don't know that, sir. You can't tell me. She sounds like a... Listen, she may be the star of adult films. Sounds to me she's the star of adult films who has a very organized business sense.
Yes, she does.
Right?
Thank you.
This to her is a business.
Absolutely.
She's got an 800-pager so people can reach her all the time. She faxes, and I believe her when she says that. She faxes her schedule to the production company so that you know where she is at all times. So she's not some airhead.
Your Honor.
Thank you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We make it sound like Sin City wouldn't have benefited anything from having me under contract, though, and that amuses me.
Oh,
my movies sell very well, and you guys would have made a lot of money.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Filmmaker Mickey Blank says he couldn't honor a deal to star actress Kylie Ireland in 6 sex films because he couldn't find her.
If you were making feature films, is it because this new person that you had decided that he didn't want to use this particular talent, that he wanted to use some other kinds of talents to make these reality movies?
Well, yes and no.
Well, even if it's partially yes, you're stuck.
Okay, well, let me clarify what I'm saying, okay?
Okay.
First of all, I do agree with you. Kylie is not an airhead by any means whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
She's highly successful, and she's at the top of her field, and deservedly so. But we feel it's not our job to track a star down. We make an agreement to make movies, okay?
Weren't you supposed to check in with you every day?
No, let me finish my sentence, please.
Yeah, often I did.
Okay. Well, what we do is, okay, one schedule I did receive, okay, was booked for the month. Okay, the following month, I can't say firsthand that I saw any kind of schedule fax whatsoever. To my knowledge, it wasn't, because I did have communication with the fellow that was in charge of production.
Well, if you had communication with the person who was in charge of production, I'm going to let you offer this one piece of hearsay, sir. How many times, and I think you're an honest person, how many times were you told that they tried to reach the plaintiff to do a film and could not?
I don't have an answer for that.
That's the issue. It would seem to me, and I'm a lay person, this is not my industry, this industry, or theatrical industry, but it just seems from a common sense perspective. I am a producer. I have a film that I want to produce. I have a talent that I want to utilize. I pick up the phone and I call that talent, either at a home or at a 1-800 number that she has so she can be beeped all over the place, and I say, I have a film that I want you to do next week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. Right? It would seem to me that the talent doesn't call you periodically because she might miss an opportunity. If the responsibility was hers and she, for instance, called you every 2 weeks, well, it was the odd week that the opportunity arose, and you're suggesting that she is to be penalized for that. No. It's the person who is producing these films who picks up the phone and says, I got a film, want you to do it, can you do it? And you can't tell me that anybody called her and said that, with the exception of this one time. The end of the contract. Am I correct?
Well, not since the beginning of the contract, also.
Well, I believe her.
Can I read you something?
Sure.
I brought along some of the magazines that covered the whole signing of the contract girls to Sin City. Most of them are AVN Magazine, the Adult Video News.
No, you don't have to read them to me. I have one question for you. Don't read them to me.
Are you sure?
As a matter of fact, I'm absolutely positive.
Okay.
Because they're really not relevant to this contract. I mean, I understand.
There's just a quote in there from Mickey Blank that I think you would find quite amusing.
Well, what does he say? All right. Just one quote. One quote. I'm always pleased to be amused.
It's called Ashley and Ireland Take Up Residence in Sin City. Mickey Blank, the general manager and self-described honcho of Sin City, couldn't be happier. In a move which he calls both fortuitous and a reflection of our new, more upscale image, the company has signed super starlets Caitlin Ashley and Kylie Ireland to exclusive one-year contracts. We're very fortunate to have two of today's biggest stars working for us, says Blank. The girls were looking to sign exclusive deals, and we were looking to do the same. The timing was just right for everyone.
So why do you think you weren't called?
Your Honor, really have no idea. That's why I'm standing here today.
Was the other gal who signed this kind of contract used during that 6-month period?
Neither of the other two girls were used, and one of the girls did take the case to court, and right as she says, as she was walking out the door, Sin City called her up and called her to the offices to go make a deal. The other girl just blew it off, which is what many girls in our industry do, which is very upsetting to me, and which is why I'm actually taking the steps to stand up for the little people, I guess you could say.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Blank, I understand that what happened to you was a change in company direction. Whether you had control over that direction, I'm not sure, but it's your company, so you're the one who's got the deep pockets. It seems clear to me that you did not comply with the terms of the agreement that you made with the plaintiff, with the possible exception of that one final film, because it doesn't say that you'd be given a certain amount of notice. However, your contract provides for 6 films over a 6-month period, which is $6,000. The limit of this court is $5,000. So even if we deduct the $1,000 for that one particular film that was offered to you and you rejected, that brings you down to $5,000, which is really what you're suing for. I believe you're entitled to that under this breach of contract, and I'm awarding $5,000 to the plaintiff. Thank you.
Thank you, Your
Parties
Honor.
are excused. You may step out. Back door to your right, please.
And on the next Judge Judy.
Well, of course, I'm extremely happy, and I feel like even though this is just me, one small adult film star, I have made a step toward making right what so many adult producers and directors and companies have done wrong to the girls for so long. And I'm very happy that she has seen things my way and that has awarded me.
Well, I'm a little disappointed because I feel Kylie greatly benefited through publicity and many benefits when we signed the contract. And as I stated in court, you know, her income is not determined by the videos she does. It's by her dancing, her fan clubs, all the other work that she does. And it's quite standard that these things don't hold up according to the way they are. And I'm just a little disappointed the judge couldn't see our way. If you look at it, anything that's never 100% one way or the other. There's a lot of gray matter in between. And I think that gray area is where this case should have landed.
You really make it sound like Sin City wouldn't have benefited anything from having me under contract, though, and that amuses me.
Oh,
my movies sell very well, and you guys have made a lot of money.
I put you under contract personally because I know you're a benefit. You're a top star. We think you're excellent. However, I think that we have a lot to offer you as well. And
it's too bad that it didn't work out that way. I do want everyone to realize that adult film stars are not complete and total bimbos, that a lot of us do treat this very professionally and that it is a business. And although we may be having a lot of fun doing it, take us seriously. I'm glad that after a whole year we have finally managed to muck through this whole situation and finally get things settled, and I hope there's no hard feelings.
I wish you lots of luck.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure doing it. It's a business doing pleasure.
He should pay her costs.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Your Honor, this is number 145 on the calendar in the matter of Flowers versus Spector. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Flowers, you and the defendant, according to your complaint, were romantically involved for a relatively short period of time. How long?
About 4 months.
And you say that when the relationship ended, he began stalking you?
He stayed outside of my apartment for 5 hours, and I called the cops at 4.5 hours.
Your Honor, it's absolutely not true.
Just a second. As a result of that, you say you have to move, you want him to pay all your moving expenses, your first and last month's rent, and the cost of changing your locks, all totaling, $3,100. That includes the week that you have to take off from work to go look for an apartment. That's what you want, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You, on the other hand, sir, are countersuing for all the money that you say that you
I've
loaned to her.
Yes, Your Honor.
During the course of this brief 4-month relationship. You're going to tell me about what loans these were, and you seem to acknowledge on the countersuit that you owe him some money. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
You're going to tell me about that. So first, let's get to your claim.
Okay.
You met, you began to date, you dated for 4 months, something happened. Tell me what happened, and then what happened as a result of the breakup?
Okay, during the relationship, he was very jealous and calculating at times. He would constantly pick business
cards. Not true. I want to
Mr.
clarify.
Spector, I'm going to get to you.
Thank you.
He would pick business cards up off my table and make sure, read them and ask where I was at all times and who I was seeing and what I was doing and that sort of thing. And then at about the 3-month point, he read through my journal and told me that if I intended to destroy him, he would destroy me. And on June 15th, he made the threat that the two of us can no longer live at the same time, therefore one of us has to die. I do not feel...
Mr. Spector, Mr. Spector.
I do not feel safe living at the same residence that he has visited me several times.
Well, was it in June that you decided to break off this relationship?
Yes.
Anything particular happen at that time?
He took me to Napa Valley for my birthday on June 14th. We fought the whole time. He told me at lunch on June 14th that he only had 65% of me. He wanted 100%. And I knew at that point that the relationship was definitely going in a direction. I had just gotten out of a very serious relationship, a marriage. And I told him many times that I did not have it to give to him. I wanted to take things slow and that I wanted things open such that if I wanted to see somebody else, I would let him know. I would give him that courtesy. I wanted the same courtesy from him. And I didn't have 100% to commit to him at that time.
So then you had this argument and broke up?
Yes.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Mr. Spector, you keep saying that's not true, and I keep telling you that I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me your version of the events, but you keep interrupting. That's not a smart thing for you to do, because it makes you sound a little bit nutty, especially since I've told you twice not to do it.
I apologize.
Good. Now, why do you think he should pay for you to move?
I need to move, and it's due to his harassment.
Tell me about his harassment.
His harassment is the 2 threats that he's made in my life.
Well, you told me about those 2 threats. The 2 of you can't live together on the same planet.
At the same time, therefore one of us has to die.
Okay. Well, maybe he's talking about himself.
I asked him if he intended on committing suicide. He said he didn't do suicide. He had connections and people that could take care of things.
Go ahead.
And I don't feel safe at where I'm living now.
Tell me about his harassment.
He's made 2 threats in my life and says that somebody else can take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, what's the $600 that you say that you owe him?
During the relationship, he paid for things like when we went out to eat and shopping and such like that. He, at one time, he helped me pay for a down payment on insurance, and he also gave me $250 for my deposit for rent. So that's $350 and $250, so $600.
Just a minute. Miss Flowers, didn't you realize that once you took money from him, you were encouraging him?
No.
You didn't realize that?
No.
Well, you should have.
A gift.
Well, you should have. Once you accept gifts and things from someone, and in this case, not only gifts and things, because you said he bought you things, but cash, you are solidifying a relationship. That's not smart. All right, Mr. Spector. To your version.
Your Honor, I have never realized that when I started the relationship it was going to end this way. I met Bonnie in January. I met her in a nightclub. She's a blackjack dealer.
I don't care where you met her. You met her in January.
I met her in January.
Look at me. Don't look at your paper.
We
right here.
enjoyed each other's company tremendously.
You dated?
We dated. We've been always in consent with each other. About 3 weeks into the relationship, I asked her to take a trip to Vegas with me. During that time, we enjoyed each other's company. She asked me to take her to one of the stores in Caesar's Palace, where she wanted to pick out some clothes for herself. We have done that, and at that time, she said that she liked the clothes, but she didn't have money to pay for the clothes. So I said I can put it on my card, and if she likes it, she can pay me back later when she has a chance. She said, that's fine. I have the bills right here.
Mr. Spector, Are you telling me that you took her shopping and you told her at this time we were sharing a room together at Caesar's Palace?
Yes, we were.
Are you trying to tell me that when you took her shopping, you said, are you going to pay me back?
I did not take her shopping, Your Honor. She said she liked something in the store that she stopped by previously. She asked me to accompany her to the store.
So you went with her
So I accompanied her to the store. Yes, Your Honor.
So you're telling me that you told her that this was just a loan of the money?
I offered her to pay for the clothes because she seemed that she really liked the clothes, but she was upset that she couldn't get them. I said, if you like, I could pay for the clothes.
That I believe. Mr. Spector, do you understand, sir? That I believe.
Okay, Your Honor.
I don't believe the last part of it, which was, and you'll pay me back.
Well, Your Honor, let's put it this way, I'm a reasonable guy. We were about 3 weeks into the relationship. I'm not just going to take some girl, take her out shopping for a couple $1,000s and say, yeah. I mean, I don't do it on every day-to-day life. Yes, I did enjoy her company, but I would not just take her shopping. I'm not a millionaire.
This is a good lesson for everybody. Let me understand this, Mr. Spector.
I am a generous person, yes.
You took her to Las Vegas.
Yes.
You shared a room together.
Yes, we did.
Look at my eyes, sir. You felt close enough to her to share a bed together.
Yes.
But you weren't going to buy her a dress. Because that, you wouldn't just buy any casual acquaintance a dress. Is that what you're telling me?
That is not true, Your Honor.
Is that what you're telling me?
No, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
How unchivalrous
I have
of him.
bought her things on many occasions.
I'm talking about this.
That particular occasion was alone. I've bought her things before and after that
Mr.
as well.
Spector, you're not following what I'm saying to you,
I'm
sir.
trying,
Maybe
Your
it's a
Honor.
male thing.
I don't think so, Your
sir?
Honor.
What you're saying to me is you felt
follow
close enough to be intimate with Miss Flowers on your trip to Las Vegas.
That's right.
But certainly, according to you, you wouldn't buy a dress for just a casual person.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's your corporate card?
Yes.
You paid for her underwear on your corporate card?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bonnie Flowers says her former boyfriend, Gene Spector, should pay her moving costs because she was driven out of her home by his threats.
What monies do you say she owes you, sir?
I'm saying she owes me about 20...
For what?
Okay, I have canceled checks here for the insurance.
All right, she says she owes you for the insurance.
That's right.
$350. And can I see the date? Can I see those checks, please?
Absolutely, yeah. By the way, the rent check is dated June 1st. That's after she's saying I told her I'm going to kill her or whatever.
No, this is
No, it's not. By the way, what kind of work do you do?
I do a lot of different things. I'm a makeup artist, blackjack dealer, that kind of thing.
Because the reason I'm asking is part of the expenses.
She's an exotic dancer
Just
as well.
a second. Is my mouth moving, Mr. Spector?
I apologize, Your Honor.
Apologizing. There's an interesting line somebody once told me. I think it goes something like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Did you ever hear that line?
Sure.
Right. The reason I'm asking that question is because you say that you want $1,000 also from him to look for a new apartment because that's how much time it would take away from your work.
About a week and a half to move and to look for an apartment.
Okay. All right, sir. I'm back to you. We're back to you with regard to the money she owes you.
I've not claiming numerous expenses that I incurred during the relationship with her because it was out of my goodwill, and I really loved the girl. I thought everything was going great between us. We're not talking about the rental expenses, how much time I wasted looking for an apartment, renting a truck, driving a truck.
Good. What are we? Don't tell me what we're not looking for. What are we looking for?
What we are looking for, I would really like to get an explanation what is inside her head. I would really love to know. I still care for the girl. I have never made no attempts or threats towards her life. I would never harm her in any way, shape, or form. I have not contacted her for about a month. I was trying to forget about the whole thing when I was served with a restraining order. That is really confusing to me. What is she trying to do? I've not made any attempts to call her. I was out for about a week. I was on vacation. She's an exotic dancer. She gives her phone number to so many people. Her phone rings day and night. I have never controlled her in any way, shape, or form. We had an agreement. She wants to see somebody, That is up to her.
Have you ever been arrested, Mr. Spector?
No, I have not. For
Ever?
traffic violations? For traffic violations, yes.
What kind of traffic violation?
Speeding.
Arrested?
Well,
for speeding?
Not arrested.
But stop. No, I'm talking about being arrested.
Well, I had a warrant for a speeding ticket that I forgot to pay, and yes, I have been
Arrested
in jail.
for that?
I have been arrested for that, yes, Your Honor.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a financial consultant, and I have an indoor air quality company, as well as appliance company.
Have you ever been married?
No.
You're not going to bother her, are you?
I wasn't for 2 months now.
That is so inaccurate.
Her restraining
Just a
order
second.
is a...
Just a second. He says he hasn't bothered you in 2 months.
Her restraining
You have
order
a
is a way to prevent me from getting my money.
When did you get a restraining order?
June 23rd.
Since your restraining order, after he was served with your restraining order,
After he was served with the restraining order.
have you had any contact with him at all?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
The person that served him the papers went to his workplace, served him the papers, and got back in the car with me. We drove down the street, turned around, came back up.
Why?
I went down the wrong street. Turned around, came back up the street. The defendant came head on toward my car, blocked me in the road, got out of the car, and came right beside my window.
And said what?
I did not roll down the window. I barely got by his car and the other car beside me, and I swerved around, and then I left.
That was the day he was served with the paper?
Yes, sir.
Have you had any contact with him since?
No.
Okay. Mr. Spector.
Am I allowed to say something? Yes.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you. What you described partially is true. Her friend have come to my office and served me with some papers. I took a look at them when I saw it was a court date. They are actually on a date when I was supposed to go on vacation, so I had to reschedule all the plans. I got pretty upset because she knew exactly when I was going on vacation. No. I didn't know what it was. Since I have not talked to her since she called the police, I don't know for what reason, I still have no explanation. In my mind, I would like to believe that what she was doing was not gold digging from me. I really believe that she had some feelings for me. I would really wanted to know what feelings. And up to this date, I have no explanation. That was the only reason I went out of my office when I saw she was outside.
Listen to me.
Yes.
She don't like you anymore.
That's fine. I would like
Just
to
a
hear
second.
that.
Do you like
I
him
would
anymore?
like to hear that.
You want to hear it?
Yes,
Tell
please.
him.
He threatened my life. I don't want anything to do with
that.
him.
That had never happened. That's a lie, Your Honor.
Mr. Spector?
Yes.
If that's a lie, trust me, sir, this is the truth. She don't like you anymore.
Great.
Understand?
That's fine.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He said that one of us has to die, and he will either do it himself or have somebody else do it.
Why aren't you dead yet?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gene Spector, a financial consultant, says his ex-girlfriend, Bonnie Flowers, owes him for money he loaned her when they were together. Bonnie says she left to escape his threats.
She owes you $600 that she acknowledges. What other money do you say she owes you, sir?
Here's all the receipts, Your Honor. This is a receipt for the shopping that she said she will pay me back.
No.
And this is a receipt for...
Don't say anything till I ask you.
This is a receipt for... She asked me to accompany her to Victoria's Secret because she had a gift certificate from her mother that she wanted to redeem there.
Mm-hmm.
When we got there, she picked out a lot of lingerie. When we got to the counter, the gift certificate wasn't enough. She didn't have any money with her. I said, what do you want to do? She said, can you pay for it? I'll pay you later. I said, fine. That's my corporate card.
No.
I didn't pay for it myself.
That's your corporate card?
Yes, Your Honor.
You paid for her underwear on your corporate card? You expect the government?
I wanted to get a record.
What?
Okay, I am very good with records. I didn't want to pay cash. I wanted to get a record because I felt something was wrong already at that time. I didn't know what. I couldn't put my finger on it.
Did he buy some things for you at Victoria's Secrets?
Yes, he did. He told me several times that he wanted to take me there, and I did have a gift certificate. He said that he wanted to get a bathrobe for me, and we did not find a bathrobe, so we picked out other things together.
Let me tell you, I still have a problem with you, Miss Flowers, and let me tell you what the problem is, madam. When we started this case, you told me that you had some problems with him. You had problems with him practically from the beginning, but certainly by May, June, at the end, he had become controlling. He had gone through your purse, he had gone through your cards, he had read your journal, and all those other things. And on June 1st, you let him go buy underwear for you in Victoria's Secrets.
I liked him a great deal.
Well, if you liked him, then if you want to move, you do it on your dime. Do you understand?
I understand.
Because I'm not giving you any money to move. You're not supposed to encourage somebody and let them spend a lot of money on gifts, presents, whatever else it is, while all the time in the back of your mind you're saying, this relationship is going nowhere because he's too controlling. This relationship is going nowhere because he's too suspicious. This relationship is going nowhere because he's too jealous. If that's the case, you're supposed to do a decent thing and not let him spend any money on you, which suggests to him that your relationship is going somewhere. It's just something that comes under the category of not nice about that. So, you feel as if you want to move? Move. Yourself. You owe him $600.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Now, sir, you listen to me. I don't believe for 1 minute that you took this lady to Caesar's Palace and she ran up a $2,000 bill and you expected her to pay you back. I find...
You are
Listen,
you were incorrect.
listen.
It was $1,300 for the clothes.
$1,300
We're not talking about the bill for the room and everything else. That amount that I don't want to say what. That was never asked of her. That was me.
Mr. Spector?
Yes, sir.
Write it off to a good lesson, sir.
Oh, I am. I've done it.
Perfect. She owes you the $600. She says it was $600. It really comes out to $551, doesn't it? Let me make sure. No, it comes out to $601. $601. So in any event, the judgment in this case is for the defendant in the amount of $601.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And the plaintiff's case is dismissed.
Party's up, Steve. You may step out. There you go, ma'am. I'll back up to you right. I'll walk you out.
You can walk me out.
On the next Judge Judy.
Assalamualaikum guys, how are you? I hope so you all are fine. Welcome to my another video. This video is about how to successful in your dreams, guys. Today I learned a lesson. Our God, Allah is my God. Ya Allah, people want success. You give success. You give success only. Help. I want to learn you a lesson, guys. I met a children in park. When I say, "What are you? What do you do?" He says that he is studying, and I am very happy because he is a poor boy but self-made. So people, I just want to tell you, you are making yourself self-made. You are making you self-made, not a begari or not a beggars. Okay. Just listen me. You are not beggars. You are not to impress someone. You make your hope, your success, your everything. People says, "Who are you?" But you only said that I am nothing, but my God is everything. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and share. I hope so you like this video. Like, subscribe and share. Allah Hafiz, and wait for the next video. Okay, bye bye.